I know a lot of you were expecting me not to present a vPub tonight. I know I'd mentioned that tonight we're gonna break and take a however, I think it's important for us to try and unpack some of the share some of the memories that were made over the last few days in Glasgow. The wonderful times that we had, and to talk about it and to talk about its future and doing things like that going forward. But more than anything, I think that we need to remember the fact that there were so many of you that were not in Glasgow this weekend, that could only look on from a distance, and yet you're still very much part of this big thing. So, the vPub is open, the doors are unlocked, even if your landlord is a wee bit like a half-shut knife. I'll see you in a second. Hello, Whisky folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday night. Welcome to the vPub. That for the third week in a row almost wasn't a vPub. Things have been so intense and so busy recently that I've been just toying with the idea of kind of taking a break and not doing a vPub when I've got so many other things on. But then realize how much I actually enjoy doing this. And I realize that you guys have come to rely on it on a Thursday night. And it's okay for me to take vPubs off when it's planned and you know well in advance and things that it's not happening. But if it's a short notice vPub that I just decide not to turn up and do, I think that's a wee bit rude. And if I'm otherwise feeling healthy and fine, then there's no real reason for it. Okay, we can all be a wee bit tired at times. Don't worry about me facing burnout. Don't worry about energy or whatever. Just suffer my slightly hoarse voice that's not fully recovered from the last few days. And I know that everything is fine. I'm okay. The only reason I would have taken a break tonight is if I had just suffered over the last few weeks or come down with something or whatever. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. So it's wonderful to be here once more. Hope you're all sitting comfortably, and I hope you've got something nice in the glass. Whether you were part of the shenanigans and the chaos that unfolded in the last few days in Glasgow, it was fantastic, and I'm going to look forward to sharing a shape of the weekend with everyone. For the folk that were there and perhaps don't remember some of it, and my opinions on it, if we would change anything for next year, that kind of thing, and obviously how committed am I to doing the same events that we managed this time next year. Then I'm obviously going to address something that we just kind of swept under the carpet with all the chaos of the recent weeks, and that is we managed to deliver the OSWAs again, Ralphie and I, for the fourth consecutive year. And normally in the vPub there would be a wee bit of a deconstruction thing, a wee bit of a kind of look over things and wonder if we would change in it for next year, and I didn't do that this year. So with no other prepared for topic available at hand for this week, I thought we could cover the two of those things. But honestly, you know, and I've mentioned before, it's nice when I enjoy putting effort into bringing a topic, a theme, something that we can talk about. But generally speaking, it's Thursday night. We just need to open the vPub doors and hang out together. And the topic, honestly, you guys are chatting amongst yourselves, or you're watching this in the background as you're having a quiet dram. Maybe I'm helping a lot of you nod off to sleep at night. That's okay too. So it doesn't really matter often what I speak about. Certainly, that's the feedback I get from a few of you. So my nerves about not really having a topic for this week, I'm just going to throw them aside because I think we'll get on just fine. That said, right, I'm not going to sip any more of this. There's only a wee drop left in the glass. I need to savor this. This is the next Aquavitae barfly bottling project that's underway. I just can't believe how good it is. I can't believe the opportunity I have here. There's a lock-in, a patron-only lock-in coming on Sunday night, and I'll share some details, although I might not be in a position to tell everyone exactly what it is, but I can talk a wee bit more about that in the lock-in on Sunday night. But I am sipping on something. I've just added a teaspoon of water to this. And I'm really quite surprised at how good a wee dram this is for its £50 price point. This is the Glengoyne White Oak that opened a week ago on the vPub. And I am enjoying fully American oak, ex-bourbon, matured Glengoyne than I thought I ever would. So cheers, everyone. Creamy, lovely wee 48% dram here. All natural Glengoyne at a good price point. When was the last time I said those words on a vPub? So before we get into all of that, let's do what we always do on a Thursday. Let's jump into the lounge and welcome some of you beautiful whisky folk and dedicated barflies. Good to see you all. Whisky Liberation Front, Lee J, you were here at the weekend. Even Roy, cracking weekend. Thank you, buddy. Loved you being part of it. It was great to see you there. Auderty is insane. I have a feeling that this vPub will be like a student house sitting room the morning after a big night. Loads of chat, hazy heads, and one guy sitting in the corner who missed out. I'm going to try and not make it that vibe. You would think that, certainly for me, there's been 3 days to recover now, right? 3 or 4 days to recover. But I had a project on yesterday, which meant I had to do more whisky exploration for the day and had just another cracking, wonderful day yesterday. So just as I was starting to become rested again, I had another busy day. So it's going to take me a wee bit more time to recover, Auderty. So the hazy head that you're talking about, it's most likely to be mine. I hope that's okay. Julian Rickman is saying, hi, Roy, Aquavita and Barflies. Always fun to be in the vPub. Good to have you, Julian. It's always wonderful to welcome you in. And Jerry Miller is saying, thank you, Roy. Really needed a vPub today. And Jerry, you've made it along to Scotland this year, but you weren't there at the weekend this time, buddy. Good to have you in, as always. Anthony Lambert is here from Germany. Good to see Anthony. Saying, Aquavita, good evening, everyone. Can't be with you live at the moment. I'm currently 15 metres up in the air on my forklift, working my late shift, still in the warehouse. Hope to get home in about an hour. Anthony, when you arrive in an hour, we'll welcome you then, buddy. Be careful with the forklift and the heavy machinery in the warehouse, please, buddy, don't you? Rick Johnson is here. Good to see you, Rick. He's saying good afternoon from San Francisco. Roy and fellow Barflies. We saw Rick for an event earlier this year in Glasgow, and we welcomed his city pal Aaron from San Francisco. Came along and joined us this year. It was wonderful to have him. Seems to be, whether it's Phil and Deepa, yourself, Rick, or Aaron, or there seems to be always some representation from the West Coast US. Of course, Gregor McQuee, Time for a Dram, was with us as well from Portland. Fantastic, Rick. Sandro Fazzolari is here from Italy. Ciao, he's saying a tutti. Ciao to everyone. A hello to everyone. Even Roy Aquavite, we are glad you are here. I'm glad you're here too, Sandro. Thank you so much. And Arnie's saying, we appreciate you opening the doors for us to the vPub. Thank you, Arnie. Wonderful to have you. And my friend, how are you keeping? Hope you're doing well, Arnie. I'm just looking for the oranges, always do. So if you type Aquaviti or at Aquaviti, these are the comments I'm picking up. If you're watching on the YouTube chat, that is. If you're watching on Facebook, thank you so much for your support over there on Facebook. I always release it there too. But I only handle one chat at a time, and it's the YouTube chat where most of the people are hanging out. Hope that's okay. Helen Hamish is saying, Aquaviti, greetings from Inverness. Great to see so many barflies last weekend. Just never enough time to visit every stand at the festival. I agree. For me, it was difficult to manage it this year. I didn't meet or greet half the people I wanted to see over the table. It's just the way it is. So much fun to be had on the punter side, if I'm honest. The Ginger Genius is saying, hi, Roy, and good evening to all the barflies. Good to see you, big guy. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Wonderful to welcome you in here as well. Max Kreitner is saying, great to see you, buddy. You certainly helped Christina nod off. She always says you could read the phone book and people would listen. I would probably be able to read the phone book and help them sleep, right, Max? But tell Christina, thank you very, very much. Thank you. Just as it jumps again, as it always does. So sorry if I'm missing loads of people. Gav's Drams in, good to see you. Drew from Arizona is here, fantastic. Tobias is saying, good evening, Aquaviti. Thanks for suggesting this weekend adventure. Great to meet so many great people. Such easy fun. Tobias, it was a first time for you as well, so I'm very, very glad you enjoyed yourself. That's good to hear positive feedback from you. And James Burgoyne, who I met, and not only managed to speak to him ever so briefly, great to meet you and so many other barflies. Saturday was fantastic. I'm glad you enjoyed it, James. Let's talk whiskey. Kevin saying, it was great to see everyone at the weekend, and especially your brother. I think he did better at the blind challenge than me. Well, everyone did. So Kevin, that's cousin Kevin. He usually does amazing at the blind challenge, but obviously this weekend was a wee bit trickier for him. And my brother travelled up for the first time. You're absolutely right. Rule is here. Fantastic to see Rule participating in everything over the weekend. Thanks for a great weekend, Roy. It was a special time. It really was, big guy. It really was. My pal Tom Franey is celebrating being a member for 16 months. And my big pal from the Netherlands, Gerben Blocker, who came over for the first time, is celebrating for 38 months. And Gerben is saying, thank you, Roy, for this moment. And Tom is saying, evening, Aquavita and all. Hope you're all well. Tom and Gerben, I was able to welcome both of them this weekend, and it was fantastic. Rob or Rib is saying cheers from Texas and has bought me a wee dram. Rob or Rib, I'm pretty certain that's the first dram and the first time I've welcomed you in, my friend. Thank you for your support, and thanks to you. Thanks to Tom and my pal Gerben as well. Cheers. Pepe Bruno. Pepe, that's also, I think, a new name. First super chat, no better person as the recipient. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for being here, Pepe, and thank you for the great super chat, my friend. Nice to welcome new names in. Cheers to Pepe. Just as I got rid of the chat there, that wasn't it jumping this time, that was my fault, but I've got it back again as I give this some love and thanks. Who do we have? Martin Logan, my pal from Paris. Good to see you. How you doing, pal? Just wanted to say hi and thank you again for the festivities last weekend. Leaving tomorrow and already thinking about when to come back. That's the good thing to hear when people come for the first time and they're not sure what to expect, just to see them enjoying themselves so much. Inflammable Material, that looks like a new name as well. Welcome in, Inflammable Material. Falsgraf, my pal Klaas from Germany, saying good to be here again with a bit of undistilled whiskey that has some hops in it. Oh, you're having a beer. Good for you, Klaas. Fantastic to welcome you, buddy. Hope you're well. Doodle the Dram Arnie, fabulous to see you perched on top of my coffee machine, as it has become a firm Thursday evening jewel. What whiskey, Dalrymple in a glass, but my hands are full of flour. I hate baking. So you're a good multitasker. Let's say a measure of your age, Arnie. Fantastic to see you smiling the whole time you were there this weekend. You seem to enjoy yourself, buddy. A grain of malt, my pal James from Sweden, saying, Roy, looks like a fantastic weekend had by all. Happy to live vicariously through everyone's epic photos. That's right. There's been so many photo sharing. Unfortunately, I didn't take photos at the weekend. I only managed to get one or two. I was just so busy with handshakes and hugs and chats and smiles and all of it. But if you're a member of the Aquavita Barflies page on Facebook, there was lots of silly and fun photo sharing going on over there that betrayed just how much fun everyone was having over the course of the weekend. It was really cool. Whisky Games, Matt Bishop. Hi, Roy. Lovely to see all the photos from the weekend on Facebook. So many happy, smiley faces. Thank you, Matt. Grateful for you to be part of it too. And Gav's Drams is saying, Gav, it jumped, buddy. I'm going to go back and catch it. I will get it. Let's find my pal Gav. And now I realise just how far behind I am. Oh, Gav, I might have to come back to you. Anybody that manages this here, if you scroll back to catch up on comments, for just whatever reason, sometimes you're reading a comment and it just disappears. It catches up with the latest one for no reason. Gav has got it. Sorry, Roy, we did not get to chat on Saturday. It was manic. Gav, I'm just grateful that you were there, buddy. And I suggest to you that the reason we didn't get to chat is because you were having just so much fun. And Alistair McPhail saying, good evening, morning, afternoon, lovely whisky folk. Alistair, you were part of the entire weekend, and I was grateful to have you there, buddy. Gerben is saying it was an amazing weekend. And Martin Logan is saying, I'll go and get some sleep now. Knackered. What an amazing weekend. Thank you. And thanks to everyone present here. It's testament to what we achieved this weekend, right? That people are still tired. Now, Tom Lindsay from White Peak is in saying, evening, Roy, absolute banger of a weekend was had. I'm grateful for you to have been part of it all, Tom, as well. You hosted on the first event. You were there all day on the Saturday, of course. And then you were part of the fun and actually part of the winning team at the blind tasting on Sunday for the second year in a row. Well done to the Alchemists, headed up by Sevi, and obviously a ringer in Tom Lindsay being part of that team. Christopher Myers bought my wee dram. That looks like a new name as well. Christoph Meyer. No, I think I've mentioned you before, but I'll raise this wee glass. No comment or anything, but thank you for the dram, buddy. And Peter Lee's bought us a dram to say, let's say farewell to Justin Wan. He's sitting on a plane ready to lift off. Thanks, everyone. What a great weekend. And Dornoch was great. So Peter Lee was looking after people even after the weekend had finished. One of them was Justin Wan. And because he was poorly, I didn't get a chance to meet up with Justin yesterday to say goodbye to him. but I'll catch Justin when he's back here again. Peter Lee, thank you for your dram. Thank you for looking after Justin and everyone else. Thanks for being part of the weekend. And cheers to Christoph as well. Thank you. My pal Alberto from Italy, Road to Dram, celebrating being a barfly for 12 months, saying, remember to click that like button, folks. That's right, tonight is a very laid-back thing. It's just not a big deal tonight. I don't really mind if we don't get a lot of folk in. I don't really mind if we don't get a lot of kind of evergreen traffic on this thing. This is a kind of be a wee bit more of a laid-back, zero preparation or very little preparation vPub to celebrate us and what we managed to achieve at the weekend. And what we managed to achieve through the OSWAs with your help as well. Brian M is saying, hi Roy, couldn't make it to Glasgow, but great to see you here. Back home in Michigan from Germany with 2 bottles of Daffmill, 2007 winter and 2010 summer, waiting for a special occasion to open them. Brian, fantastic. Sometimes the special occasion is just a Thursday night. Thank you for your generous dram, buddy. And another one from Jan NC. That looks like a new name, Jan. Great to finally meet you and lots of other lovely barflies. Here's to the next time. All the best, Jan and Mark. Wow. Not even sure I remember you, Jan. I would remember your face. But thank you very much for the dram, and thank you for reminding me that we met. I feel terrible. And Philip Wagner, who I met for the first time as well, travelling with the whole team of his family. It was wonderful to see him at the Bon Accord and spend a wee bit of time chatting to him. He's saying, thank you, vPub, for welcoming me in Glasgow. It was such a pleasure meeting you in person, such a great experience meeting this amazing barfly community. Thank you, Philip. Thank you so much. Of course, I can never kind of meet everyone, spend enough time or the time that they all deserve. But I managed to get a wee bit of time speaking to Philip and his family at the back. Brian, thank you, buddy. Jan NC and Philip Wagner from Germany. Cheers. Philip, you're Austrian, aren't you? Sorry, I made a wee mistake. Okay, I'm way behind with the chat already. North Coast Drama, oh, good to see you, buddy. It was fantastic having you here as part of the team. The Hallians were over and in force as well, bringing the smiles and laughter. Evening, Roy, and all the barflies just hopping on to say hi and thanks for an awesome tasting and after party. Looking forward to catching up on the replay. Cheers. Thank you. And welcome back, North Coast Drama. Welcome back. Picking this up on the replay. Do you have a different lighting setup today, Roy? It seems dimmer. It does seem a wee bit dim, actually, doesn't it? Let's see if we can fix that. How's that, Rick? Making you feel a wee bit better? As soon as I change the lighting, the camera I'll be upset. So hopefully that's a wee bit better. Hopefully you can. You don't need to see me. You just need to be able to hear me, don't you? Gene Kelly's bought me a dram as well. Thank you, Gene. He's saying, Roy, since I didn't get a chance to buy your dram this past weekend, I hope you enjoy this one. Gene, thank you so much for your generosity, my friend. I'll raise a wee glass to meeting you and hanging out with you this weekend and your buddies that travelled with you. I had great fun, Gene, and I hope you did too. Cheers, my friend. And cheers also to Pedro from Brazil, celebrating being a barfly for 19 months, missing Glasgow already. He came over with his brother Flavio, and they were able to participate in a lot of the shenanigans over the weekend. It was great stuff. A bit uncalled for, calling Aquavita a bit dimmer today. Ben, to be honest with you, if I can be honest, he's probably right on the money, not just literally, but yeah, if we need a few days kind of recovery. We need a few days to be operating at a slightly slower pace to recover from that weekend it was. And Graham is saying, thanks for 3 epic days, Roy. Graham, it was wonderful to have you as part of it. I'm very glad that you were able to participate fully and enjoy it all. And Jeff Whisky saying, is there any add-on events planned for the Indie Festival? The itch is getting very tempted. Let's talk about that, because that's the next big event that's happening early in the new year. It's the Independent Spirits Festival. Head over to independentspirits.co.uk. Know that when the tickets for that are gone, they are gone. It's not like the Glasgow Festival where I'm able to act as a wee bit of a broker for some people and sort things out. There's 200 tickets that's going to get you the viewing of the docuseries and the festival access. And then for the people that are just interested in the festival access with a later download of watching the docuseries, I don't think it's a download, it's a stream. There's a separate ticket. But because of the size of the event, once it's gone, it's gone. So I would suggest you get your hands on your tickets. It's the 15th of March next year. I'm involved in the concept of it. I'm involved in the promotion of it. I'll be there on the day. But the team behind it, the team behind David Stark there, and the Waterlife production team as well, they are putting together a festival that's going to focus fully on all the independent bottlers. The list of exhibitors, it could do with a wee update. There's a few more being added since the website. But everyone that you can think of, all the who's who of independent bottlers are already signed up and involved. It's going to be a fantastic event. In terms, Jeff, of add-on events, I don't have any inspiration yet, but if it ends up being a thing that most of the barflies or a lot of barflies are going to be at, a lot of patron supporters, that type of thing, it would be silly to pass up an opportunity if one presents itself, right? So watch this space, buddy. Karsten is saying greetings from Wiesbaden in Germany, visiting the Interwhiskey Fair starting tomorrow, meeting any of you whiskey folk, he's asking. So anybody that's going along to Wiesbaden tomorrow, look out for Karsten there. All right. Can he make that? May have something big planned around the Aqua Vitae. Oh, hell, Swed is suggesting that March might not work for her. And Philip is saying, yeah, Roy, Aqua Vitae has just scratched the curve. Oh, he's talking about, it's maybe the Austria blooper that I had there, right? And next, Nick Gascoigne is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 25 months. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? Thank you, Nick. It's wonderful to have you here. I usually lose my voice completely over the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend, but I somehow managed to not shout too much this time. Sheila kept us all super hydrated. She was like a wee bee running around with glasses of water for everyone and things, looking after everyone. So I think that helped as well. But yeah, just over the course of the weekend, with the alcohol, with the fun, with the shouting, with the kind of, you just end up losing your voice a wee bit. I know that I'm not the only one. That said, hopefully you can hear me fine and hopefully you can understand me. It's just my tone is a wee bit different from usual. Let's talk about what we managed to achieve at the weekend. Yuri, yeah, my pal Yuri's here, Yuri Moggio. So lucky I could end my first Scotland trip by meeting you in the Barflies in Glasgow. What is with whiskey that brings together so many wonderful people? That's a subject for a scientific study. Yuri's having a wee laugh, but he's bought me a wee generous dram as he does so. Yuri, you were just such a happy spirit to be there. Every time I saw you, I just felt comfortable that you were in good company and you were being looked after, you were enjoying yourself. To hear you having had a good time as well means a lot to me, Yuri. Cheers for the dram. So this whole weekend exists because of the pre-existing, long-standing annual event that is the Glasgow Whisky Festival. Years ago, it started off at the Arches in Glasgow, eventually outgrew the Arches and needed a bigger space, so it moved out to Hampden Park. That's Scotland's national football stadium. And there are two huge hospitality halls. You go up the stairs and there's a hall off to the left. You cross the mezzanine and there's a hall off to the right. So there's two mirrored halls and they're pretty massive. This year they cut back on exhibitors just because they felt that last year, from sheer real estate, for space, for moving around and for the retailer supporting the event, Royal Mile Whiskies, they had to kind of just not go crazy. So it meant that there was a few exhibitors that were there last year that didn't appear in 2024. That said, for me to complain about that would be silly because I didn't get through half of the exhibitors that were there. You're in a position where you have to pick your battles, you have to make a choice, you have to I wouldn't come up with a strategy because you tend to be derailed very quickly by talking to other like-minded whiskey folk. But if there's things that you can't miss, if you've got a little checklist, have a look beforehand to make sure you can achieve that. You arrive in the door at 12 o'clock and you're back out of there well before 4 o'clock. You've got 3.5 hours to explore all the exhibitors and get around them. And there's no currency involved. Your ticket covers the price of all the drams that you pour. It's a wonderful, wonderful event. And when it comes to the Barfly side of things, when it comes to the Aqua Vitae channel, when it comes to my community, the people that enjoy hanging out with me on a Thursday night, what we've done is we've used that as the kind of catalyst. That's the kind of the inertia breaker for us to have events where we can take our virtual community that we enjoy every week online and get together in real life. If you're coming to Glasgow for the festival anyway, it always seemed to me to make sense to do things around that. So it started off with just us meeting at the festival and then going out and having a dinner together. That still happens. Then a few years ago, I brought back the Blind Challenge Live. So on the Sunday, I've got a venue where I welcome as many people as possible in. It's always oversubscribed. It's always very difficult. But hopefully the churn will mean that each year some people drop out and then the next year other people can come in and experience it for the first time or whatever, or come back again. But it's just the nature of things. It's very difficult to find a venue that will cater for what we want to do there. Very difficult. From space, for licensing, for corkage, for all of those things, it's difficult. The casino that we do it in looks after us very well. But this year, I did something a wee bit extra. There's a whiskey bar in Glasgow right on George Square called the Piper Whiskey Bar. And upstairs, they have a nice whiskey lounge. And we decided that we would fill that lounge this year and we would do an under the table tasting. And under the table is it's less of a thing now, but back in the day when I was first going to festivals, under the table drams were a thing where a lot of producers would have something a bit limited, a bit more special, a bit experimental or playful under the table, so that if they got into a discussion with a whiskey geek, they could share a thing with them. So this is not something that they were necessarily selling. It wasn't part of the core range. It wasn't something that somebody could go off and engage with after the festival. It was just maybe a talking point under the table drams. So rather than clog up a lot of the most popular tables at the festival with these requests for have you any under the table stuff, I decided to do a tasting based on that. So we put 60 people, ended up being 70, of course it did. It was oversubscribed as well. In the Piper Bar Whiskey Lounge. And I invited 6 hosts to come along with dealer's choice, anything that they wanted to bring that could be their definition of an under-the-table port. So let's see if I can remember who they were. I invited Springbank, I invited Ardnamurchan, I invited Decadent Drinks, I invited White Peak, I invited Loch Lomond and Glencadam. And because Springbank were coming, Cadenheads reached out and said, we're in town, can we come along with the Springbank guys? So they came along and poured the welcome dram for everyone. So we ended up having 7. It was fantastic. Everyone invited said yes. And I believe to a single host, everyone I invited would very much like to be back again next year. It was the right people in that room for them. It was a respectful, well-run, well-behaved thing. People loved it. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. We would tweak it a wee bit. I think we would try and not fill the room quite as much as we did. That said, despite the room being as full as it was, we made it work. Between 3:30 in the afternoon and 6:30, everybody kicked off the festival weekend in style, being looked after by the who's who of exhibitors that were coming to Glasgow that weekend for the festival. Fantastic fun, really good fun. And then afterwards, I didn't book a restaurant for it, but I knew that there was a restaurant that would be able to look after a number of us. So I just went to the hosts and said, join us to eat if you would like. And I said to a few other people, I just told them where we were going. Now, people were pleasing themselves and shooting off in all directions, and that's great. That's what we encourage. But we ended up managing to go up for some South Indian dosa at the top of town in Bath Street at Rishi's. Great fun as well. And for me, that was the end of the night for me after that. We always have to try and not get too excited and burn the candle at both ends, because we take a wee bit of fun out of the weekend if we're struggling with our condition, right? If we have a wee bit too much, or let's say we don't have enough sleep. What did you think of those people that were there? How did you feel about the Friday event? Is it something that you would be interested in doing again next year? After the weekend, I felt completely under the table, says Frank Peathead. Well, for me, big guy, you always stood tall and you looked as straight as a whistle the entire weekend, bringing your smiles and your warmth to us all, buddy. You'll be remembered by a lot of people after this weekend. What a VIP you are, Frank, and a great, great host as well. Great idea, this, Roy, says Greg from Paris. Fantastic. Whisky with Molly saying the idea for next year at the Piper, get the windows opened earlier. That's right. Didn't even think about, that's a good one. I didn't even think about opening the windows in advance. When there's nobody in the room, it's quite cool in there, but it fills up with people and it gets sticky, right? Definitely have to get Glasgow Whisky Festival next year, says Helen. And Ben is saying the Friday event was great. Ginger Genius is saying it was my first time and I absolutely loved it. I will be going next year. That's good to hear, big guy. It's good to hear. Gordon Fraser is saying never stop it. Aquavite. Oops. Whisky Weekend Ram Harrow saying would be great also at Limburg. See, for me to arrange anything at Limburg that's just too much. The amount of running around that you do, the amount of going backwards and forwards to a venue, the amount of kind of detail sorting and stuff. So at Limburg, we tend to just arrange dinners together. That's much easier to do. Jean Kelly saying Friday's event was epic. Please keep it. I'm hoping to be back straight away. Olga's here. Good to see Olga. She's saying if it was full this year, any chance to join next year? It's always the same for me, Olga. It's always so difficult. So what I always do is I offer it out to patrons. So it goes to the patrons through the tiers first. And any other spaces that are left goes out to the Barflies group and the YouTube community, YouTube members and things like that. But it's so oversubscribed that it tends to be a tough thing. What I was mindful of, speaking to some of the people at the festival this weekend, and I said, well, oh, you're not at the blind tasting, or I didn't see you there at the thing. They said, no, we'll be able to go. We wanted to leave space there for other people. How was it? I mean, it's amazing. Willie Dollier, I managed to get him back as a team captain, and he said, I actively decided not to take my space this year because I wanted somebody else to participate in it. It's just wonderful people, such wonderful, thoughtful people. I'll by all means, Olga, I bumped into you last night, didn't I? I'll have a chat with you and let you know how it all works and things, but time for a dram. Gregor is saying Friday was a perfect start and created a 3-day festival, ideal for those that travel significant distance, maximising every hour we can. It was good to have you there as a support role buddy as well, Gregor. It was good to have you seeing behind the scenes a wee bit and seeing all the effort that goes into it. But all the positive energy that you brought, it was fantastic to see you, and it was fantastic to see you so happy as well. Helen Hamish is saying Friday night was sensational. Thank you, big guy. And Blair Stevenson is saying I couldn't make Friday event, so would definitely fancy it next year. Hopefully you heard positive things about it, buddy. Whisky Games is saying the hosts were great, answering lots of questions. That's right. All the hosts introduced their own drams individually, so there was a chance there to have some nice interaction there that you might not be able to get at the festival. Dave Cummins is here. Good to see you, Dave. How are you keeping? I hope you're well, big guy. He's saying I hope to make an event next year. We would welcome you, buddy. And Willie Dollar is saying the Under the Table event was a fantastic way to start the weekend together, repeated. Alistair is saying the Friday event was great. All of the hosts were interesting and the drams were special. Bern Marnick is saying loved both events, but probably wouldn't have survived if I got tickets for the festival too. You just need to manage it, big guy. You just need to kind of work it out. And Whisky with Molly saying a big shout out to all the Barfly helpers that poured, hydrated, and helped organise the whole weekend. Absolutely. The people that turn up. We had the Lees, obviously. The Lees are just always there to help and support. Denise and Peter, and Amy was there helping them this year, helping us this year. It was fantastic. We had Sevi, we had Gregor McQuee, we had the Bottle Chasers there in force. We had Scotty Monroe, who's in tonight as well, all helping out. We had Shayla running around keeping everybody hydrated. Ben Whisky with Molly, you were here, hands-on helping as well, helping set up on the Sunday too. If I just reach out to folk and say, if you're around, you give us, and the people just pitch in and we all make it happen. Good shout, big guy. Whisky Weekend Drama saying, dinner it is if Mel and I make it in 2025. And Shayla is here. Good to see you, Shayla. She's saying Friday was a highlight. Absolutely loved it. I get the impression that you were on the ceiling most of the weekends, Shayla. I think you seem to love being a part of it all. Mark Chapman is saying absolutely brilliant afternoon and evening on the Friday. Loved it. Lovely drams and great people. This is the feedback I would like. I know that would make some tweaks for next year, but not so much. I don't think we get huge amounts wrong. I just think that now that we know the size of the animal that we're dealing with for each of the events a bit better, I think we would manage it a wee bit better next year. Doodle Drama Arnie saying it was awesome to witness your showmanship, and flashing that next Aqua Vitae bottle a few minutes ago reminded me of that fun. Showmanship, Arnie, do you think so? Well, that's something that I don't get very often, but I'm grateful that you were there. I'm grateful that you enjoyed it, and I'll take it if that's what's been said. Can we get Hampden for the blind tasting next year? That's right. Just fill out Hampden. That would be amazing. Can you imagine how many drams we'd need to pour, Ben? You've been there setting it up for 60 people, and you know the logistics behind that. Can you imagine how many drams we would have to pour? So I was carrying around in my car that weekend 500 Glencairn glasses to take care of both events. So a big, huge thanks to the Bon Accord, to the Glasgow Whisky Club, to Julie, to Thomas, to the people that enable that whole weekend to happen behind the scenes that you don't even see. They're the ones that make the rest of it so easy for us to put the things together. Thomas and Julie, thank you so much. Cheers. It's their glasses I'm dealing with. So that was an experiment this year. It was an experiment for me to see if the people, the hosts, would enjoy it, if it would work for them, if it would be a good event for them. I don't pay for that whiskey. I only pay the corkage on it. Ended up being expensive. But they bring the whiskey along. Fantastic. They bring the representatives along. They bring along people who can genuinely speak about the whiskey that we're sharing. So it was a really good event, right, perfectly pitched for us as whiskey geeks. And I think I would be keen to try and recreate that next year. Only 500 glasses, says Peter Lee, lol. That's right. Well, you just need to do the multiplication. I know what the word means. I just can't say it right. Multiplication. Wow, I'm tired. 7 drams for 70 people. It's a lot of glassware. It's a lot of glassware. Sugar Kitty saying a lot of work. I'm available for hire. Small labour cost. 1 plane ticket. Maybe we'll see you here one year. Sugar Kitty, what do you think? Hellswood is saying no Blair this evening, Aqua Vitae. I wonder if our Blair, if Jimmy Legg maybe thought that there wasn't going to be a vPub tonight. And because I scheduled it so late, if that is the case, I'll be in a lot of trouble from the big man. I hope that's not the case, because he'll maybe watch it on the replay, but I know that he won't get nearly as much fun out of it. Mikey Hayes saying, I hope Aqua Vitae was tired when writing the quiz this week. My first 10 out of 10 maybe. But Mikey, good to see you, big guy. I suggest if that's the case, it's just as likely that I was tired and made it far too hard, because it's easy to make a hard quiz. Making a balanced, fair quiz where you've got a chance of that 10 out of 10, that's trickier. Malt application, I'm in, says Greg in Paris. And Tom Freni is saying, if you need help next year, just ask. Thank you, Tom. Thanks, big guy. And Whiskey Games is saying, dram list, Cadenhead's 27-year-old Enigma. So this is the dram list that they brought along. It's going to create a wee bit of FOMO, Matt, but let's share it, okay? Cadenhead's 27-year-old Enigma. That was a fantastic part of the Enigma series, actually. I got a gift of an Enigma over here, the 25-year-old. The one that Cadenhead shared on is this was the welcome dram, the opening salvo to the Friday event, a 27-year-old Enigma. Then Ian Forteeth of Angus Dundee brought along a Glencadam 16-year-old Calvados maturation. Then Julie brought along a Decadent Drinks 23-year-old blended malt. Loch Lomond brought along a pre-dram, like a preview of their next distillery exclusive. It was an absolute sparkler. It was their 2012 wine yeast release, so it's coming out as a 12-year-old. £70. It's going to be a peach of a release. White Peak brought along a fantastic upper dunnage, and they had reduced it using a Petit O, which is a cognac way of reducing strength in cask. Really, really interesting, super geeky dram. People loved it. Ardnamurchan brought along a 10-year-old fully Oloroso matured Ardnamurchan, an unobtainium bottle, one that we won't see on the shelves. And Springbank brought along their next release in their Sherry Wood series, which is the 10-year-old series, which was an Amontillado. 5 years ex-bourbon, 5 years Amontillado. Have we covered everyone there? So it was a fantastic cracker of a lineup to start the weekend with. There it was jumping again. Danny Keenan saying, I was there in spirit. Seeing all the happy smiles from posts of the weekend helped soften the blow of not being there. Well, that's nice. That's nice. That's not FOMO, Danny, right? That's you kind of vicariously enjoying it, right? Time to bring back, is it a Speyside, Roy, says Graham Brown. I'm still not so sure. I think, is it a Speyside might have had its time. It's just so fragmented, the marketplace now, with brands that it might be difficult to play that game. But you never know, Graham. You never know. Sugar Kitty say next year is Scotch Down Under, Edinburgh Tattoo Meet Up. If I can manage that, it may not be Glasgow Whisky Festival, but a meeting is possible. Listen, wherever you can render our virtual space is real, go do it. It's just the people make it worthwhile. The people make it happen. Gordon Fraser, good to see you, buddy. Glencairn 16 Calvados blew my mind, as did Wireworks Thingy Bob. Oh, brilliant. It was wonderful to have you there. And Alberto is saying, we'll happily support any way you need next year. Already planning my trip. So Alberto's come over from Italy and he's planning on doing it again next year. And George is saying, hello, Roy, from all the Arizona boys. Scott Allen, Drew from Arizona, and Whiskey and Wine Trails. If that's from George L. Fantastic. Hello right back at all the Arizona folk. Cheers to you all. Scotty Mack is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 22 months and saying, hope to meet up at next year's festival. Looks a blast. It really is, buddy. It really is, Scotty. So then, the big day was the festival itself. Lolander is saying it sounds like some bog standard drams. A wee bit of sarcasm there, yeah. It was really nice. The festival itself, so everybody gets hydrated in the morning, they get a big breakfast in them, and they head over to the steps outside Hampden, and the queue runs all the way up the side of the building. Nobody's stressed about getting in, nobody's worried, everybody piles in, and they shoot up the left staircase or the right staircase, and they just fill the place in a few minutes flat. The festival is 3.5 hours, and it's about 4 hours by the time you're in and out. It goes by, it disappears in a flash. You have got to be so mindful to navigate the places that you want to go to, the drams you want to try, the people you want to speak to. I failed this year more spectacularly than I have any other year, but it makes a bit of sense because there's more of our team. Somebody estimated there was more than 10% of the festival attendees were barflies. I would suggest it was more than that this year. It was maybe 15 to 20% of the event were actually barflies and people from our community. Maybe not they would identify fully and solely with our community, but there's an overlap with our community, say. Kent faces, known faces. It was ridiculous to move from one spot to the other without seeing another happy face, another happy face, another happy face. People that you were genuinely grateful to shake hands with, to hug, to smile with, to raise a glass with. It was just fantastic. James DeGiulio is here. Him and Gail come over this weekend, had a fantastic weekend. Thanks for all you do. I stayed sober. Good for you, big guy. Good for you. I think the majority of people that I saw, even if you wouldn't suggest they were sober, I didn't see anyone over the top or out of order. Or it was just an amazing weekend of well-behaved, polite, considerate whiskey folk. It was amazing. Good to have you as being part of it. Here's to you, to James and Gail. Cheers, James. It was just terrific. So we've got 3.5 hours at the festival. So many exhibitors, independent bottlers, small distilleries, bigger distilleries, well-known brands, favourites. All the community favourites are there. No Diageo that I remember seeing. I don't think I remember seeing Pernod Ricard either. I didn't bring a brochure home this year, and yet the festival itself is rammed. It is completely full of the best kind of whiskey being enjoyed by the best kind of people. So when we all spill out, getting so that they can get ready for the second session in the evening, it means that everybody's leaving the stadium at the same time. So the barflies, we lay on bus transfer. And this year we filled 2 coaches. There were 2 coaches outside the festival. It was all paid in advance. It was prepaid for everyone that was joining us for dinner. They could hop on the bus. We could all shoot up to the restaurant together. And I have to say, we've made a mess of the curry in the past because we had no idea what size, what scale to put on it. So we're booking a table for 50 people, maybe 80 people, maybe 100 people. This year, we knew in advance that we were booking that curry for over 100 people. That meant the restaurant could staff for those people. They had paid in advance. They had paid the money for the bus transfer, for their drinks on arrival. They'd paid the money for the food. It was all done. They could finish their food, get up and walk out. And they didn't need to worry about settling bills and things unless they'd ordered extra drinks, of course. It was just so slick. And because they had staffed for exactly the right amount of people that we told them were coming, the food was hot and on time and exceptional. I was sitting opposite my pal Gregor McQuee, Time for a Dram, who's in here tonight, who's a bit of a foodie himself, if you don't mind me saying, Gregor. And you were commenting on the quality of the curry to the point that you're studying the style of curry in the hope that you can recreate it back in the West Coast of the US. I loved it. I loved it this year. I think it was run very, very well. It was easier. It was much easier on the big guy. When I say the big guy, we all know who I'm talking about, because this event, this curry, the buses, everything, the money, the people, the guest list, it's all run by Craig Dollier. The effort that must take is huge. But I know that you're respectful. I know that you're kind, and I know that you're polite, and I know that you don't take the mickey. So he's able to put it together for us all. And hopefully I'll maybe get to see him on Friday night this week, and we can have a wee chat and decide if he's up for doing it again next year. But I'm going to raise this glass to my big pal. Keeping it in the family, I know. But Craig, thanks, buddy. Thanks for looking after us again. After the dinner's over, people just shoot off home. Some of them go round to the Bonaccord. A lot of us go round to the Bonaccord. I went round to the Bonaccord. And for the people that are going to the Bonaccord, I pour a ton of drams, welcome drams for everyone, so that not everyone is overwhelming the staff at the Bonaccord either. And that's pre-arranged. Everybody get a dram in their hand, and that's a wee welcome dram, a bonus dram from me. This year I poured Thompson Brothers 6-year-old TBBSW, the OSWA winner. It seemed to go down very well. And from then on, and if people want beers or drams or whatever, they can hang out in the Bon and put some money behind the bar. I left a wee bit early. I think at 9 o'clock on Saturday night I left, just before all the VIPs start to funnel in. I went back to make sure that everything was okay, and I got only positive reports about all the behaviour at the Bonaccord. Thank you all so much. It means that we are trusted and we can be invited back again. Just a cracking Glasgow Whisky Festival day. The team at the Glasgow Festival is Thomas McDonough, who's a proprietor at the Bonaccord. Julie Hamilton, the wonderful Julie Hamilton, that helps us enable this entire weekend, believe me. And also Mark Connolly, who's the guy that you'll see zipping about all over the place with an earpiece in, making sure that everybody's been looked after. It's a privilege that these people are impassioned in bringing that festival to us every year. It's just a fantastic event. And Alan is saying, I loved the vibe at the festival this year. My father-in-law appreciated you remembering him too. Thank you, Alan. Thanks for helping me out there. We're obviously talking about Ronnie, and it was good to see you both there, and it's great that you had a good time. Jesse Artanzalo is celebrating being a member for 35 months, saying good evening, Aquaviti and Barflies. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much, and thanks for supporting me as a barfly. Everybody that's a barfly, they've clicked the membership button in the YouTube channel. That means there are no ads with my content. The barflies are now paying more than I ever earned from ads on YouTube. So I'll never switch ads on again because of the support that you give me as members in YouTube. In return, you get little icons, that whiskey themed and channel themed icons and things, emoji, and little kind of barfly icons as well. But the biggest thing that you need to get back for supporting me as a member is a thank you. So thank you. Cheers. The whiskies that I'm enjoying this week, which hopefully will betray Just how busy it's been are the exact same whiskies that I had sitting on a table to the next to me a week ago in the vPub. This room hasn't been put straight since last Thursday night. My feet have not touched the ground, and I've hardly been in here except for picking things up and dropping things off. Craig Dollier is actually in, and he doesn't usually say much, but he's speaking there. He's saying, "Thanks, folks. I loved every minute, apart from the wee moment I couldn't find the buses." So sometimes they're right in front of us. Last year they were away off to the left, and this year they were away off to the right. I think it just depends on how Hampden Park is structured for larger vehicles to get in and out easily. Okay, let's spend one wee more minute talking about the festival and the Sunday event. I would encourage everybody to go and have a wee look at Dramface, which is actually having a wee bit of a hiatus. Can I just honestly speak why that is? Almost all the Dramface team that are within spitting distance of the Glasgow Festival, but some of them flew, some of them from the West Coast of the US, some of them all the way from Hong Kong. So many of the Dramface team were in Glasgow this weekend. So it just made sense for Dramface to have a wee bit of a break. And there hasn't been a lot of Dramface content going out this week. But Dougie Crystal was at the festival at the weekend, and he loved his time. And he put together a breathless, blow-by-blow account through his eyes of what he enjoyed about coming to Glasgow. And he managed to make the Friday event. He was at the festival event, of course. He was at the... he didn't come back for the curry afterwards, so he missed out on that. He did miss out. He missed out there. And he was at the Blind Challenge event on the Sunday too. Have a wee look at Doogie's words. I don't think he took much in the way of photos this year, so he had to go around asking pals for photos. He was totally off hire, but had a proper knees up and enjoyed it. Because he was there at the event on the Sunday, we've got a little bit of insight of what's happening there. But it's the Aquavitae Blind Challenge. The first half of the day is talking about blind whiskey and everything that blind tasting can do. We've got 60 people in a room all participating as part of a team, 10 teams up against each other to see who can determine and untangle the puzzles of a flight of 5 blind whiskies. This year was probably the cheapest flight of whiskies I've put together for that challenge. So the ticket price dropped a wee bit this year. But it didn't change the dynamics, or I would go as far to say the enjoyment of the whiskey in any way. I think everyone enjoyed the whiskey. The overlap between all the blind drams was enough to confuse people. But let's raise a wee glass to Sevi and his team, the Alchemists, who this year, I predicted last year, their score of 49 out of 60 would never be beaten. But they only went and beat it this year. 50, I think it was, there was one extra in their team, so they were multiplying and dividing, but I think it rounded out to 51 out of 60. So, to the Alchemists, to Graham and Blair and Chris and Sevi and Tom, and I'm struggling to remember everyone that was in the team now. I should have the photo up here. To everyone that was in the Alchemists team this year, well done. You pulled off an incredible thing. And not one person in that room cried cheat because there's no way. I've done this thing over and over again. There's no way anybody at that table knew what was in the glasses in front of them. And I would go one further than that. I would say that if they did know or have a clue of anything that was in the glasses, it would only serve to confuse them. It's better to go in fully blind. Congratulations to Sevi and the Alchemists. Well done, boys. I'm saying boys. There might have been a girl in the team. See, that's just lovely and bright and fresh and fruity. What did I just pour? The Loch Lomond Steaming Fire. Oh, it's an excellent wee dram. Excellent. Pierre is saying the blind tasting was very humbling, to put it mildly. It's always like that, though, Frank, isn't it? The Mollies, the people's champs. So Ben, Whisky with Molly, was a captain this year. And it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Hey, Jimmy is in. Jimmy is here. That, it says a lot. It says a lot about a character. It says a lot about a community. It says a lot when we're looking out for each other and we realise that one of us isn't here. That's really quite nice. Ron Gergely, I think. I know, Ron, you've actually slowly explained to me how to pronounce your name. Good afternoon, Roy, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll have to catch the replay, as I always enjoy the vPub's cheers. Well, I hope you catch this replay, Ron, even although it's a fairly ambiguous, kind of nebulous topic. We're just kind of recapping the wonder of the weekend. Ron, my friend, thank you for your dram, buddy. It's nice to have you here. Cheers. And welcome back. Now you're watching on the replay, Ron. Hope you're comfy. Hope you're enjoying something nice. Well, looking at things vicariously the other day, I had a look at Google Maps to see the way from where my camper van would be parked to the Bon, right through the old town. Yeah, I wonder where you would park a camper van, buddy. But that's quite a drive for a camper van. Don't you fancy flying? Maybe just stay in a cheapish hotel. Be good to see you here one year. And Gregor is saying, immense highlight when the scores were revealed. Aquaviti, not last. That was time for a dram. His team were the Gutties this year, and they were just happy that they weren't last. Alan McLaughlin is saying, what's your best whiskey from the weekend, the best moment from the weekend, and best barfly moment? Oh. I think for me, the best barfly moment, I'm going to be a wee bit selfish about that. And I'm going to talk about the moments that we were able to get the bottle chasers together. The four of us, despite the fact that we're friends, the four of us being in the same space in real life doesn't happen very often. And having them all together and just them being there for chats, hugs, photos, all of it was good. I took a lot from that. I took a lot of positive energy and support from that. Best whiskey of the weekend for me. The best whiskey moment was the most striking whiskey moment was the Loch Lomond right in the middle of a lineup of very moody, dark drams at the Under the Table event. And we had this laser focused, super bright distillery edition Loch Lomond that was just so full of intense fruit, so communicative, so kind of, it was almost like a palate re-energizer, refresher. It was just wonderful. I think everybody was going on about the 15-year-old fragrant drops. I think that was maybe because when people are talking about things and hyping things up, it can be oversold. So to go so late in the day and to be able to taste some of that 15-year-old from fragrant drops, it was a North British single grain, and to taste how good it was, that was probably one of the memorable drams. And best moment from the weekend, I think it would have to be the feeling of relief from everyone when we got the blind challenge out the way and we knew that we could just go off and enjoy the rest of the day with the bottle share and things like that. So there's kind of there's wee awards and gifts and thanks and things I'll send out and stuff, and there was a few nice wee things that happened there, including, I'll just keep it together for this one. No. Rob Halford accidentally got sent bottle 1 from one of the Ardnamurchan bottlings that I released last year. He thought I'd done it on purpose, but it was wrapped in tissue. There's no way I'm going to ask Royal Mail Whiskies to look out bottle 1 of each for me. I'm just not going to do that. He gets sent one of bottle number 1, and he brought that along and gifted it to me, and I completely lost it. It was just such a nice, lovely gesture and thoughtfulness, and just it's a mark of the guy and who he is. Cheers, Rob. I hope you're watching. Fragrant drops doing the work, says Gordon Fraser. You were one of the guys to tell me to go over and try it. Cheers, Aquaviti. Time for a dram, Sevy. You absolute beauty, Scotty Monroe. Yes, loved Scotty. The energy that you bring, big guy, is incredible. The same as Gregor, his positivity, his laughs, his boldness, and Sevy's just continual energy, his continual enthusiasm is just, I just can't imagine how I would pull it off as comfortably without you. Gregor is saying to Scotty, saying it was great to shoulder up together, but also equally watch the other from afar in a room full of friends, almost like a proud husband watching his wife slay at a party. Graham Fraser is saying, loved the donated bottle of 1946 Glenlivet after the blind. I've kept it out for us. So obviously all the empty bottles are recycled by the casino afterwards, but I asked for this one specifically. This is from Glen Robb. This is a bottle that Glen Robb brought along for us to share and finish. This is 1946 Glenlivet, bottled in 1992 at 46 years old. It's easy to reach for this as the highlight. I'm not being fair to so many of the other amazing whiskies that were brought along to share. But when he put this in my hands, I just registered that it was an old Smith's Glenlivet. This is one of the Gordon MacPhail distillery label bottlings of old. So this is an independent bottling, but it was a faux official release back in the day. And I was just grateful, but I didn't register the vintage. I didn't register the age. There were so many bottles, so many people coming into the room at the time, and I just kind of thanked them. So I had to kind of go back and thank him a wee bit later. And we did get to taste a wee bit of this. Just amazing generosity. But the quality of the drams at that bottle share, there were things like single cask Ardnamurchans, Springbank official bottlings that were not even opened. There's too much whiskey for us to drink and get through. That's the right thing to do. If we're not getting through the whiskey, don't open things if they don't need to be opened, if they've not been requested. But there's so many new things to try that we just, even although of how prized the Springbanks and Ardnamurchans are, we're familiar with these. We're exploring. Even at that point of the weekend, we're still ever so promiscuous. And Tom, Whiskey and Wine Trails, is saying, at least you didn't have to throw me out of the casino this year. That's right. You were the very last man to leave in 2023, big guy. Graham Fraser is saying, loved the donated bottle of 46 Glenlivet after the blind challenge, Roy. Absolutely. Fantastic. And Arnie is saying, simple. The fact it was made when my granny was born and bottled a year after made for a surreal experience. That's right. And bottled before you were even born, Alfie, right? And bottled a year after me, sorry. So a year after you were born. Amazing. So Rob Halford is in. You're all beautiful people. He's saying, was a pleasure to see so many barflies and friends again. Do we have to wait another 12 months? We do, buddy. We really do. I don't know if... Cheers, big man. I missed your comment. He's saying 001 for the number one, even having a Roddy Rob Roy as we speak. He picked up a Roddy cocktail from the Good Spirits Company when he's up. Cheers again, Rob. All right. That Halford guy is a better man than me, Aquavite. I would have drank the thing. That would have been okay too, Jimmy, believe me. But he's a thoughtful fella. Okay, let's get on with talking about the Online Scotch Whisky Award, shall we? Have we done enough vicarious reliving the weekend? Have we done it? Suffice to say, let's talk about the future of the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend. I don't think we can add in any more events. I think we bookend the festival quite nicely with an event on the Friday and an event on the Sunday. And bizarrely, it hopefully encourages people to be a little bit more mindful about their consumption, because they're there not for a big incandescent fast burn. They know that they're there for the course of the weekend, and they know in order to get all that fun out of the weekend, then they need to be mindful. They need to measure out and pace their energy, pace their consumption, make sure they're eating at the right moments, make sure they're staying hydrated, getting enough sleep, all of these things, because these are intense weekends. They truly, truly are. And I think that having structured events and having highlights and things for people to focus on, those hard points, means that I hope that it helps with the structure of the weekend. Do we do it again next year? I think for me, it's easy. I think that was maybe, quite possibly, the best weekend that we've put together. I loved it. I got very little negative feedback this time. I just thought we'll make slight tweaks. We'll make it a bit slicker. We'll know what we're in for. We know the size of the animal next year. But I hope that all of you that were there would agree that anyone that's going to be there next year should experience that amount of fun. Alan Smith is saying there is Thursday and Mondays as well, lol. I don't think I've got the energy for that big guy. And Alistair McPhail is saying dodgy team names at the blind. Yeah, there were some dodgy team names. Yeah, I was just going to, but I did give you the choices. You didn't have to take the team names, big guy. But I appreciate your humility and your sense of fun with it all. Whisky Weekend Drama is saying no whiskey-based gathering anymore, I heard. That's a shame that's gone. It's really, really a shame. And that's silliness that's made that happen. Please do, says Hellswood. Graham Fraser saying 3 train trips into Glasgow and home over the weekend was a wee bit tiring. Why don't you just rock up into a hotel, Graham? I can't think of any negative feedback. Aquavite would come back any time. And Pedro and his brother Flavio came all the way from Brazil. Fantastic. Cheers, Pedro. What a lovely, bright, fruity wee bottle of whiskey. Glentalkers, for me, has always been the most fruit-forward kind of malt whiskey in the landscape. I think I would get very few arguments if I was to suggest that Loch Lomond seem to be the ones that are doing that these days, especially if the product comes out of their straight neck pot stills. Everyone, Chris, good to see you, saying was listening on my drive home. I am so jealous and sad I couldn't attend the event. Sharing whiskey with friends is truly special. I hope everyone realises how lucky they are. We really, really do, Chris, and I predict you will make it one year. Jimmy Legacy, you've brought together all of the best people somehow. How did you do that? Well, Whisky did it. I just had to facilitate the events, maybe. Jimmy, we'll get you to the festival one year. Would it be just a bit intense? Orange Will is saying the main festival was perfectly bookended with your events. No need for more. Spot on. Thank you, big guy. And it was wonderful to have you. Jeff is saying no greater team name than the Slappers in 2023. I did tell people that we called a team the Slappers in honour of Jeff Whisky. This 12-year-old Loch Lomond year's Aquavite could have me possibly guessing Glentalkers if given blind, says James. It's that fruit-forward profile we're talking about there, right? So glad you're enjoying it, James. And Justin Wan is saying, tuning in from the air as I try to get some work done. Thank you for the whole weekend. Had an absolute blast. Justin managing to get some internet in the air. That's incredible, right? He's hogging all the bandwidth from the other passengers watching a YouTube video. Christoph Meyer is saying, are you ever at the Whisky Fair in Nuremberg? There's soft discussions about Nuremberg for next year, Christoph. Just need to wait and see. I need to pick my battles. A family is always first, as you know. So I go to these events based on what the family needs from me. And if we can steal a pocket of time, Germany has become, whether it's Frankfurt Inter Whisky, whether it's Limburg or maybe experimenting with the Nuremberg event next year. I would love to get back and hang out on the continent. I love going to Germany. Tom's Ramsey saying it was a pleasure to be a part of the whole weekend. Thank you and all the fabulous whiskey people I met in Slantia. Tom, it was wonderful to have you there. I'm trying to think where did we manage to bump into each other and meet up? You've even been kind enough to put a wee picture of your face there. Is that you there? Wonderful stuff. Okay, let's talk a wee bit less about that. I'm already an hour in. I was going to try and make this a short and neat vPub tonight as well, so that I could catch up on some of my sleep too. Lowlander is asking which one of you barflies sold Aquavite's Loch Lomond 10 on this month's SWA auction. Lowlander, it doesn't matter. It could easily be a barfly who's got a lot of whiskey and suddenly needs to liquefy it. Maybe they've hit on hard times and need to change their whiskey collection and exchange it for some cash. There's no problem there. Listen, Aquavite bottlings are not being purchased and sold by flippers. Harrow Whisky Weekend Drab says quiz now would be fine. We just roll into the quiz. Let's go through the OSWAs. Last night, Ralphie did, and I appreciate it wasn't a public stream. It was his kind of, he did a live stream for his patrons, his Pat Pals live stream. and he did a a question and answer type session on the online Scotch Whisky Awards. So I thought to myself, maybe there's not a reason to do that then. But I thought I want to reach some of the people that are reticent about the OSWAs, that are thinking that it's maybe in some way flawed or manipulated or contrived. I want to reach these people. I want to give them a shake, and I wanted to say to them, what do you need us to do to reassure you that that's not the case? And even if you decide that you think it's fully above board, but it still suffers from certain dynamics, flawed dynamics, understand that we know this. Ralphie and I know that it's not a perfect model. So let me put it to you as I go through the blow by blow some of the individual things with you tonight on the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. If it's something that was to suddenly disappear, would you miss it? Or would you prefer that we continue to try to perfect the model? Would you continue that we tried to make it as representative as our community as possible? Now, there's a lot of selfishness out there. There's a lot of people that just say, oh, I don't really get any value from the OSWAs anymore. You know, these people that have moved on, they know that Lechic 10 exists and they don't need these recommendations from the categories anymore. They're past that and they don't get much value. Shame on you. You've taken from the community, you're elevated to a point. You didn't learn all of that stuff about whiskey on your own. You took it from other people, and you're not willing to give back and help teach the people that are coming in behind you. And you say these comments, you put these comments in the OSWAs as if you're given constructive feedback. You're not. It's a reciprocal thing. If you've learned from the community, I think you should be paying back to the community. That does not mean that you need to get behind it, you need to sign up and you need to go in and vote and things like that. But if you're going to come along with some negative feedback, some criticism, that is fantastic. If it could be constructive, that's even better. And if it can be constructive with suggestions of what could be better, that's perfect. Unfortunately, all the criticism that we take for the OSWAs, let's not say all, but most of it rarely comes with any more potent or better suggestions to improve it. People talk about it being Roy's community influenced or Ralphie's community influenced. People talk about it being an echo chamber. People complain about the things that are not represented, the things that are not there. They've not actually paused for a second to consider what the OSWAs actually are and how they're structured and how they manifest, how they unfold. So I'm going to go through one or two things with your permission in order to address some of those things and see if we can't continue to build the OSWAs, not for scale, not for impact, not for size, but for genuine, honest betrayal of what we actually love. For what is a whiskey community, from somebody that's just in the door to somebody that's been here for, like Ralphie, for 15 years or beyond, that represents what we have enjoyed over our time. That's what the OSWAs need to do. Shayla is saying, ask not what the community can do for you, ask what you can do for the community. It's a good way of putting it, honestly. Tweaks now and then where needed, says Hellswood. The fact that the community is driven is a godsend, and what makes it so relevant is the whiskey community in general. I think that's right. Jim Morse is saying, I think some of the noise is from jealousy. Some can't handle the success of things they didn't create or don't control. But when it's so open, Jim, I think that anybody that can step forward and be part of it and own it, they can take ownership of it. I appreciate that people that see my face or Ralphie's face are maybe a bit frustrated that we're the voices for it, but we built the thing. But it's not ours. We need to try and build something that becomes bigger than any individual person, any individual thing, so that when we can potentially pass the baton on to someone else and have created something that can be bigger than any individual person, any one voice. I know that that's very much what Ralphie's about. He wants to build something that will become something of a legacy. We could fail, but if you're behind us, it's very unlikely. Falsgraf is saying there's certainly an immobility of masses, hence repeated winners. However, it's interesting. What does change? I love the OSWAs for that. I think I'm going to touch upon this a wee bit tonight, class. And Alistair McPhail is saying, echo chamber, we all disagree all the time, except on community, honesty, decency, and friendship. There you go, Alistair. Echo chamber, my arse, because when you're watching me and you see me celebrate a whiskey, people will come in and attenuate my celebrations. And sometimes if I'm a bit insipid or meh on a whiskey, we'll see people in the comments elevate. We see people are adults. They don't just take what I say as gospel and blindly spend money. And if they do, all it does is give them a foundation to have much more independent thought. And with more independent thought in their own exploration, they then feed back a much more valuable input into the community. The people who complain about the echo chamber thing are also the same people who don't share it. They don't share it with their communities. They don't say, what about this OSWAS thing? You know, it's a very echo chamber thing, I think. So let's dilute it. Let's dilute that. Let's share it in more places. Let's get more voices in so it's less of an echo chamber. No, they don't do that. They just answer an echo chamber and they just shut down. And it's just it's super frustrating when you're faced with it doesn't happen so much. It's getting, people are starting to learn. That's why I'm here, says Jimmy Legg, to correct all of the foolishness you're putting out there, Aquaviti. Thank you, Jimmy. It's nice to have you on board and I appreciate it. Let's bring up a couple of banners here so that I can stay on topic a wee bit. Here's the first thing, and Ralphie talked about this last night in his private stream, because Ralphie sees that the OSWAs are growing. He sees unequivocally the OSWAs are growing. But, and he is right, he is correct in a sense, but if we measure the pure metrics, the amount of people that register and the amount of people that vote and the amount of votes that they place, it betrays a slightly different picture. The OSWAs are growing in awareness and they're growing in impact, but when it comes to pure numbers, I think it's less obvious. Let me show you some stats. It's just one screenshot I'm going to put up here. Don't worry about it too much. This is the 4 years so far of the Online Scotch Whisky Awards from 2021 to 2024. And I've just given you the numbers here of the amount of people, the registrants. What I'm talking about is people, the individual people who have signed up. Now, I'm going to suggest to you that in 2021, that 3,140 people that signed up back in the inaugural year, that was 3,140 people. There might be some people out there that chose to sign in on multiple email addresses. You know, some of us have got 2 or 3 accounts or whatever, and we signed in 2 or 3 times and we put in multiple votes for whatever reason. But as soon as you realize that the scale of the thing is not going to be manipulated by 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 votes or 10 votes, it's much bigger than that, then it becomes a wee bit redundant, right? People aren't going to be silly about doing that. The scale of it is enough that we should be safe from that stuff. So these are individual registrants, and then the vote count there. We can use the registrant number as a genuine metric to see how much engagement the OSWAs are getting over the years. Less so in the vote count. Certainly the first couple of years when people could vote for a different amount, they could place a different amount of votes on a different amount of categories. So we were changing things. But where that vote count can be measured is this year's vote count against last year's. That is a true figure with no things, none of the parameters changing. What do we see? During the COVID years, we see from 2021 to 2022 a huge explosion. People realizing what it was in 2021 and getting on board immediately in 2022. And we were still very much in that kind of COVID, post-COVID period of whiskey where everything was just manic and crazy. Everything was selling. We were over accumulating. We were just manic for whiskey for a long time. We saw that on YouTube as well. We saw that in our watching our matrix that we measure. Any analytics that you looked at, it was a very, very buoyant time in 2021 and 2022. In 2023, things start to relax a little bit. Things start to settle a little bit. And we can see the number of registrants drop from 4,800 to 4,600. And then this year we've seen it drop to famously 4,444, which was a nice number on the fourth year, but that was not designed or contrived. That was just the number that it was at when we switched it off. Then you look at the votes from 44,687 in 2023 down to 40,887 in 2024. That is actually better than I predicted, because through YouTube, we see the metrics that the online whiskey community are less active than they were in 2022 and less active than they were even in 2023. Things have cooled off a little bit in whiskey. There are less people as crazy today as there were in 2023. The whole thing has come. I predicted, I said it would be wonderful if we could break 4,000, but 4,500 is maybe an optimistic target, and I can't see us getting in. That was based on what I saw through all of the other things happening in whiskey. The amount of people that are buying whiskey is down. The amount of bottles sold is down. The prices that people are willing to pay is down. The view time, the minutes watched on YouTube, probably the likes on Instagram. I haven't done any study over there at all. The only exception to the metric, to those metrics, is probably the growth of Dramface. Dramface is continuing to grow, but that's because it's a new platform. It's not even 3 years old yet. People are still discovering Dramface, so it's in a growth phase. But I suspect if Dramface was 8 years old or a bit older, we would see those same metrics settling on Dramface too. So the answer to are the OSWAs growing? Is the initiative itself growing? I would have to say that it is stable. It is reinforcing itself. When we do the questionnaire at the beginning and the questions at the end, that betrays that we are going exactly to the right people. The right people are putting the effort in to register and to make their votes count. The fact that we've got over 4,000 people willing to do that year after year now, I predict that over the years it will grow, but it'll be much slower and much more organic. And it's not going to be growing from that peak that we had over the COVID years. It's going to be growing from where we are now. And it's not going to grow because there are more people coming into whiskey. Unfortunately, that's what I would love it to be. I think it's going to grow because more people buy into it as more people decide that it's a trustworthy, open, transparent, genuinely honest, independent thing that puts democracy and that transparency first. That is a non-negotiable for Ralphie and I. There's no way he would risk what he's built up over 15 years, and there's no way I'm going to risk what I've built up over 8 years and want to build in the future. We're not going to do that. We're funding this thing ourselves, and we just remain the spokespersons, the spokespeople for you guys. So whatever you decide is the nominations, whatever you decide wins those nominations, Ralphie and I just need to tell you what they are. We get one vote, the same as you do. And during the OSWAs, while they run, Ralphie and I choose not to talk about the brands and bottles that are in the running. We reserve the right to talk about them the other year, or the rest of the year round. Of course we do. That's what we do as creators, as content creators, as whiskey voices, as guides in whiskey. Let's ask the next thing. We need to remember what the OSWAs is. So when I talk about selection versus popular, the OSWAs are not there to measure the top 40, the top 10s, the most popular. This is a huge mistake. People are conflating the nominations with the People's Choice Top 10. Let me give you the example of that blew up this year. Bruichladdich wasn't mentioned for Best Distillery. It wasn't nominated. Now, I can understand that people would get frustrated because people would have a similar feeling to me. There's a good chance that Bruichladdich would have been in the running for winning Best Distillery this year. So people were upset that Bruichladdich wasn't nominated, as if somebody had vetoed it or made sure that that wouldn't happen. Let me tell you, that's not the case. If enough of the community had voted for Bruichladdich because we harvested community input, that would have been put forward in the running for the core contributors to make sure that it got a nomination. After it went through the process, Ralphie and I simply took the top 6, and I'm sorry for Bruichladdich that this year in 2024, they didn't make it through that phase. That's all that happened. And that's exactly how it should be. Because if we just put through the top 6 every year for all the categories, the OSWAs will be one dull affair indeed. This is a nominations process because what we want to do is recognise the best, the most contemporary, the most innovative, the zeitgeisty, the ones that are doing it now in the year that the OSWAs are shared with you. Not the best over the last 10 years. Springbank will continue to win Best Distillery until things fall apart at Springbank, and that could be decades. In order for Springbank to win, they need to be nominated. Now, if we put it out and harvest the community, I put it to you that Springbank will always be in with a shout of being nominated at the front end. But it needs to go through another process. And that other process is a bunch of core contributors, 65 of them in 2024, who are going to sit back and they're going to look at those nominations and say, what have Springbank done this year? What have they done in 2025, 2026, 2027? What have they done to earn a nomination in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards this year? Just be the best isn't enough, I would argue, because it's not a popularity contest. It's not a top 10 chart. The nominations is people deserving of a nomination because of what they've achieved and because of what they're bringing. And it might be a change. It might be something that they were not doing in the past, but they're doing now, and we want to celebrate that, and they deserve a nomination so that we can talk about this in the OSWAs, and it becomes part of the awareness in the community that there's a positive change happening for a bottle, for a producer, for an independent bottler, for a distillery, whatever it is. That's the point of a nomination. They need to win a nomination in order to win the award and win the category. And without a nomination, they're not part of it. They're not part of the running. Now, if we want to relay to the community who are the best in a chart format, we put it over to you and do it as part of the people's choice. That's the popularity element of things. That is a chart. That is the people saying what they love more. And it's hard. How do I know it's hard? Because when it comes to clicking votes, we see thousands of votes coming in. And when it comes to people typing in their people's choice, we see it half, sometimes less than half. Sometimes the people's choice, people have put in, they're just, they don't even take care over the spelling or whatever. They just put in something or don't put anything at all and just skip it. They don't realize the power and the value of the people's choice is what's measuring what's popular. The nominations is in there to celebrate who's doing things the best based on the opinions of the people who guide through whisky, through their YouTube channels, through their web spaces, through their social media feeds, over a bar, in a retail shop, people who guide whisky purchases with an independent mindset. That is different from the entire community getting together to decide a top 10 chart. That's why we have the nominations, and that's why we have the people's top 10 choice. When people conflate the two, that's when we start to hear people complaining that Bruichladdich or another hasn't been involved in a year. I hope that makes some sense. Springbank had done exactly what they did the year before. Let that never change. Unless they want to open some more Glengiles, I would allow that, says Jimmy Legg. Jolly Rover is saying it's about getting to know each other's tastes and then new ideas from the people you could feel close to your own taste and then discover new epiphanies in lots of like-minded folk. But Jolly Rover, someone like me is looking at the OSWAs. I'm inspired by the OSWAs every year and I get new ideas every year. So I would suggest to you, if that's working for me, I think that's working for most people in the community to give them inspiration and places to explore. And he's gone on to say, and you're vital to it. However, it's not just you. And then he follows up with the question I've just read out. Yes. He's celebrating being a barfly as well, saying, for me, it's an inspiration chamber, Roy. It's a kind of nice, positive spin to put on it. It's very much what it should be. It's not an echo chamber. It's an inspiration chamber. I think I quite like that. I hope you don't mind if I use that. David Evans is celebrating being a barfly for 55 months and saying, hopefully one day we'll get to Glasgow for an event. David, when that happens, we would welcome you with open arms. That'd be amazing. Falsgraph is saying people are not frustrated, Aquavite, but if someone mentions it in the People's Choice, it's a statement versus the experts community. No more, no less. They exist as well. That's another reason for the People's Choice to be their class. And Drinks Whisky, David, part of the OSWAs this year. Loch Lomond and Glasgow being nominated in categories this year brought a lot of nods from my whisky pals. They commented they had improved and deserved recognition. That's the point of the nominations. We hope that in the future that the wider community are inspired by those nominations and they start to bleed into the People's Choice top 10. We start to see them being regular placements in that there. But if we do see a contrast between the two, these are all just data points for us to comment on and for us to interpret in our own way. I'm glad to have you as part of it, David, and glad to have been able to bump into you and speak to you ever so briefly at the weekend as well. David Evans is saying, how would Forest or Lakes Distillery ever get traction in the OSWAs? Well, David, they won't, because they're so small scale, right? Unless enough people in the core contributor group have tried it, enough people have been struck by it in order to speak about it. White Peak are doing a tiny amount. If White Peak were in Scotland, they would be amongst the 5 smallest distilleries in Scotland. And yet White Peak got nominated, and White Peak took the People's Choice this year in the World Whisky category. The format can elevate those small companies that are doing the right things. We continue to tweak it going forward. I nominated Loch Lomond, says James, a grain of malt, because of the leaps and bounds they've made in recent years, and to deliberately not pick Springbank or the usual suspects. So everybody has the ability to stay loyal to the stuff they love or recognise, or to play with new ones. Absolutely. Evening, everyone, says Ryan Sutherland. Good to see you, and big guy. I hope you're well. Shame not to see you at the weekend. Hope you've got more sleep than I have over the last week. Were you there? And I just didn't see you. Andy Cross is saying, sorry, I'm a little late. Been to see Therapy in concert, now slightly deaf. Looking forward to a drama or two. Good to see you, Andy. Good to see you, buddy. Wonderful to welcome you in. And Arnie is saying, Doodle the Drama is saying, Aquavite as a beginner, the OSWAs are the only golden stars that I paid attention to compared to the industry awards. The value of the OSWA concept was quite clear right from the start. And Hellswood is saying, Lake's way too expensive to become as popular as White Peak, methinks. Lakes have positioned themselves as a luxury brand. They're putting branding and the story ahead of the quality of the liquid because they're not mature enough to be at the price point that they're at. It's just... Is the liquid rare? Is the liquid disappearing off the shelf? Does the liquid never touch the shelf? I mean, they're hardly Daffmill, right? Helen is saying, sorry, that's the one I just picked up there, Helen. Yeah, I think you've got a good point. So, we understand the difference, I hope, between the nominations and the point of a nomination. To get nominated is an award in itself. And then we celebrate the popularity of the thing by using the People's Choice to measure it. It is a guide. Some category changes. This is a discussion that we always have with the OSWAs, and Ralphie every year wants to either remove either the non-malt or the world whisky, or to find a way to define them a wee bit better. And I see where he's coming from. But I suspect that what's happening is that what we are seeing is that we're seeing those two categories conflating because of a lack of inspiration there. And it was through discussing it with Rob Halford that made me realise that the way to attack that, the way to fix that, is to maybe restrict the votes that people have. Let me give you an example. If you go into a category such as World Whisky and you immediately see a World Whisky that you've connected with, and it's obvious that's the one you want to place your vote on, that's a good, the community have to know about this. I've spent my money on this. I would re-spend my money on this and buy it again. I would recommend it to a pal. I love that whiskey. I think it's great value. It's getting my vote. Bang. The way the OSWAs are structured, you have other votes that you can place. And then you go in and you say, okay, I'll give Redbreast a vote. That's fine. I'll just use up my vote. Or you give Wild Turkey a vote. Now, someone else comes in behind you and decides to give it to White Peak and then Wild Turkey or a Redbreast. And then someone else comes along and decides to give it to Cotswolds or Amrut or whatever it may be, and then give their second vote to the Redbreast or the Wild Turkey. What happens is the first vote, the obvious vote, doesn't get the traction. It's the secondary votes, just because of how familiar they are, that ends up winning the category. Not because they've been the majority of people's first picks, but because of the consolidation of the secondary or third picks. So I suspect and I predict that Ralphie and I have agreed nothing, by the way. There's no changes in the offing right now. We'll deconstruct the whole thing and we'll have our wee head-to-heads and our meetings and our ideas in the months ahead in order to put in any changes after a considered, careful process. Maybe a wee bit of modelling and chatting it through first. But I suspect that what will happen is that we constrict the amount of votes that people have got so that when their votes become much more valuable and they have to be much more careful with them. I suspect we'll see less of the high traffic stuff coming through at that point when people really need to be careful with their vote picks. So category changes. Non-malt is clumsy and World Whisky. They are both clumsy categories right now in name and in definition. But I still need a better suggestion how to handle them rather than just deleting them. Jimmy Legg is what you're saying is worthy of respect. It's so great that we have someone with the clarity to look forward. Just remember that Frank and I will always be in your rear view, clinging to the past. With awareness, Jimmy. With awareness. I'm going to get something in the glass so I can raise a wee glass to the comment. What are we going to pour now? What are we going to have? We're going to have... Let's have a wee bit of the Aberfeldy. I've only taken one more out of this since last week. It's a chipped glass. How does that wee chipped glass always get to the front? That needs thrown away. This is the red wine Aberfeldy. Remember, opened it last week. 46% ABV, fully natural wine cask series. Great price for a 15-year-old. £60? £55? £60 I think I paid. 60. I don't know if it's out there in the wider world now or only from Deers Direct, but if you like the red fruit and that kind of red wine influence, that red wine cask influence, the colour of this whiskey is very red wine. You might not see it in the glass there on the camera. Have I got any white paper here around? Yeah, I've got this whole entire book. If I turn it to a white page, you might get to see some of the red winey colours. I don't think so. But there's definitely some bright red, burgundy, magenta highlights in this glass that the camera won't betray. It's very red winey in colour. You could look at this and you would know it's a red wine cask finish. And you know it straight away. Almost a wee bit sulphury. I know now from experience that a decent wee dollop of water in this helps it along a bit. So I'm going to put some water in this as I got on to talking about the rest of the OSWAs. But cheers, Jimmy Legg. Thank you, buddy, for your wisdom, your humour, your wit, and your dram. Cheers. Sean Causer is in. At the risk of sounding obvious, Roy, why not a best in each of the regions category moving forward. I know, Sean, it's just might be the first time I've welcomed you in. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for being here. We're trying to keep it simple. It is so easy to complicate this thing. It's Molinari that quoted famously, right? Wasn't it? To complicate is simple, to simplify is complicated. So in order to keep it focused, and even with just 9 categories, we're still running 3 odd hours on the winner's ceremony, right? If we were to add more categories, it would just be an all-day thing and it would start to fall apart. I think we need to keep it tight, and any changes that we do make for now need to be considered changes. But I like the suggestions, and it's nice to have you put them forward. Doodle Dram saying, quite tricky to imagine non-malt and world whiskey. It would feel like ghosting big sources of more potential amazement, what we seek after all. That's right. We're the Scotch Whisky community doing our Scotch Whisky Awards, but we're not going to say that we're only going to focus on Scotch Whisky. Other awards might set themselves up that way, and that's fine, but we want it to be the Scotch Whisky community's representation of how they view all of these whiskies. We're not going to give bourbon a category and Japanese a category and Canadian a category. We're going to kind of lump them together and oversimplify things, but we still want to be clear. We, as the questionnaires prove, we are majority Scotch whisky promiscuous. That means we love our Scotch, that's our lane, that's our focus. But we will always explore other lanes, other categories to make sure that we remain in that right spot. I predict no category changes going forward next year, but maybe in the years that follow. Let me just talk about Ralphie and I's agreement. Ralphie and I are very close. It's nice that we have this trust right now, trust in each other, trust in each other's take and things, trust in each other's understanding. For two people that are so different, you know, the kind of careful respect has now been replaced a little bit with an easy comfort and a trust. And we're very considered about the whole thing, and we're very precious about it. The things that I'm speaking to you about tonight, I've not discussed with Ralphie. Well, and probably most of them I have, but it's fine. I'm not going to say anything that's incendiary. I'm not going to agree anything that he hasn't agreed with. We'll do it as a team together. But I can share my opinion with you. I can share my ideas with you, just like Ralphie did on his stream last night. We agreed at the outset that 3 to 5 years we'd measure the thing, see where it's going. Have we solidified it? So we're 4 years in now. We're right in that sweet spot between those two benchmarks. Next year, the 5 year is the point where we look at what we've created and we decide, do we continue this forward? It looks very, very strong right now. From my perspective, all the signals are bright green. We need to keep doing it. We need to keep taking it forward. I think Ralphie very much feels the same way. But that next year is a critical year. It takes a lot of effort. Graham Brown is saying, as we vote for best distillery, could we also vote for best Scotch whisky bar? You're complicating again. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great idea. But I wonder. Road to Dram, Alberto is saying, the fact that we are such a global bunch makes the world whisky category really tough. What we have access to changes significantly about the globe. Finding a solid solution is tough. And yet, through the People's Choice, especially Alberto, we managed to create a fantastic wee list every year of automatically generated solid recommendations. How tough can it be to choose from that list? Black Fennis saying, hey, Aquaviti, could you give the English Whisky Awards a plug? I think voting closes on Saturday. I've plugged it throughout. English Whisky Awards. They've got the website up there. I should have had it up again. I've been plugging it. Ralphie plugged it last night, plugged it last week, the week before. If it closes on Wednesday, you've only got 3 categories in there to do. I've been on and I've voted. I've put forward my picks. English whisky is here and it's a thing. The scale is very small. I appreciate that not everybody will be able to get behind it because of exposure to it, but everything has to start small. And if there's something being created there's something that's worthy of celebration. Best whisky character might be a popular choice too. Brilliant, Helen. Brilliant. Hellswood has got the link here, so I'm going to click on that and I'm going to pin that to the top so that people can get to the English Whisky Awards and participate in that. It's Jeff from Jeff Whisky Channel that's putting that together with support from Vin at No Nonsense Whisky. And a wooden spoon for Aquaviti, it says Lowlander. Falsgraf is saying, done my English votes, Aquaviti, great idea, needs to be supported. Thank you, Klaus. Thank you for supporting the English Whisky Awards from Germany. Good stuff. All right. I don't want to talk about the echo chamber effect anymore. That was the only other thing I had up here to talk about, the fact that it's that, but I've explained that clearly. If you want to dilute the echo chamber effect, if you think it's manifesting and you think it needs addressed, the best thing you can do is share the OSWAs and get it out into communities that are not part of us. Anyone with a Google account can participate in it. They don't need to watch YouTube video content. They just need to care about the whiskies that they're drinking. That's how to counter the echo chamber effect. How long will the OSWAs last? Was the last topic I wanted to discuss with you. And I have to say, the OSWAs will last as long as it's being supported and as long as you guys are behind it. We're at a critical level. We've surpassed that. At the tasting in Glasgow on Friday, when we had the hosts coming along, there was more than one host stood up and talked about either being nominated or being successful, not necessarily in 2024, but in the past in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. Some of them even went as far to say loudly that for them, the Online Scotch Whisky Awards are the only ones that they actually care about, because they know how it's put together. They know it's the people that are buying and enjoying and sharing their whiskies that take the time to vote for the thing. This doesn't exist easily. It needs people who take the energy and the time to put it together, people who care. It just so happens that Ralphie and myself and 65 other contributors in 2024 took a moment of time in order to bring it together. I put it to you, everyone that's involved in the OSWAs, and let me ask you a straightforward question. If they didn't appear next year or in 2026 or beyond, would you miss the Online Scotch Whisky Awards? So if we want to talk about how long will it last, it'll last as long as you support it. And the best way to consider how much support you're willing to put behind it is to ask you, will you miss it if it's not there anymore? Jimmy Legacy, and it was really impressive about how many of the winners were online to accept their awards. That really struck me, Aquaviti. I think you're right, Jimmy. And the ones that were not there to accept their rewards were even more vocal in their silence. Alistair McPhail is saying, and it's good night from me, an early meeting in the morning. Always a pleasure to hang out with you all, friends. Keep doing what you do, Aquaviti. Alistair, thank you very much. Good luck with the meeting tomorrow, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Sean Causer is saying, if possible, perhaps releasing the full vote list would be a great idea after the event to help grow awareness of lesser-known brands and malts moving forward. Yeah, it's an interesting thing there. It's an interesting thing, but if you were to just... It's almost like, Sean, the more transparent you are, the more people ask for more information, right? There's a value to it. There's a value to the information for the community. There's a value certainly for producers. I think what we need to be very careful what we do out there and remember the scale that we're operating at. So while we've got 4,000 plus registrants, it would only take 6 people to vote for the same thing for that to get an impact. And that could be easily coerced or corrupted or affected then. So we always kind of move to the top to measure bigger things, to measure real movements, zeitgeist, popularity, real things. But it's interesting. We are generating a lot of data that isn't probably being fully used right now. And Gerben is saying, I for sure would miss it very much. I hope, Gerben, you're not alone. Anyway, we're doing all right. An hour 49 of me chatting about not having anything to chat about. Cheers, everyone. The Only Scotch Whisky Awards need to be something that Ralph and I can build into something that's formulaic, that's got a way of working, that's got a structure, that would be very, very easy for Ralph and I to say, right, okay, we can't do this anymore. Through retirement, through a change of direction, through strategy, through all of these things, we need to have created something that we can give it to somebody and say, this is your project now. I hope you continue it in the same spirit and a similar structure as to what we've built. And the OSWAs for it to become something that's bigger than any individual person or any individual or small team or whatever it may be. It's still early. 4 years is good. 4 consecutive years is great. 5 years better and beyond. I'm not worried about the fact that we're smaller number of registrants, smaller number of votes, because we're still beyond the critical mass that it needs to be relevant. And there's still a lot of work to do for it to become part of the annual kind of Whisky calendar, if you like. There's a lot of work for it to be done. There's a lot of communities out there that we are not yet reaching. And we can only do that through organic growth and building trust. Let's see what happens in the future. Anybody that's staying around for the quiz at the end, somebody was suggesting that a tired me, I think it was Alistair Gray, suggested that a tired me might put together a far too easy quiz. Well, there will be easy questions in the quiz tonight, no doubt, but there will also be absolute belters. I hope that I've been able to put together a balanced quiz, despite how tired I've been recently. I'll remind everyone who's joining me for a Patreon lock-in on Sunday to keep an eye on the Patreon feed, and I'll share the link through there. I know I'm delinquent in October, but I'm sure you'll forgive me for what was going on in October, and I'll be able to explain to you on Sunday night just how much stuff was all going on at the same time. It's never been as intense as it has been over the last few weeks, and yet we managed to all come together and pull it off through Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend, through the recent vPubs, through Dramface, through the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, and everything that all of these things bring. What's the thing that ties it all together? You. People. If in all our endeavours, all of our projects, we continue to put people first, we'll do all right. The big man is forgiving me. Jimmy Legg is saying that I am forgiven. I will keep promoting the OSWAs to the small circle of friends who are interested in the subject of whisky, says Klaus. For that, my friend, I appreciate it. Thank you. Jean Kelly is saying, you're the best for hosting this get-together, strictly for the benefit of the community. And if you don't mind, Jean, it's also for the benefit of myself too. I get so much from this, from whisky. I get so much from this platform, whether it's aquavitae, whether it's OSWAs, whether it's Dramface. I get so much from you. I get so much from whisky. Reb is saying, obviously, we'd miss it. The OSWAs are the worst whisky awards except for all the rest. It's a true reflection of real life, and real life is never perfect. Some wisdom there coming out from Reb. And Rick Johnson is saying, absolutely, I would miss them. The OSWAs are not only a reflection of the taste of people I've come to respect, but the OSWAs send a message to the industry that quality, effort matters. And Tom is saying the OSWAs are one of the several valid sources that inform my future purchases of aquavitae, and they would be missed. It's interesting, Tom. So even experienced folk are using them for inspiration as well. And Herben is saying, as I picked up earlier, that he would miss them. Thank you. So those of you that are willing to stay for a wee quiz at the end, please do stay. Try it out. See how you got on with it. It's always multiple choice. It's always multiple choice. And if you're struggling a wee bit, you can use the crowd. They can support you. They can help you through the banana skins, through the ass-hattery, the difficult ones. And 10 out of 10 should be something that's not easy to attain. Lolander is saying, I've got to dash. Great vPub as always, aquavitae. Good luck with the quiz, everyone. See you next time, Lolander. Thanks for joining us tonight. And everyone, Chris is saying, I don't know, I think the credibility, we need a secret society behind the OSWAs for the conspiracy theorists to complain about. But maybe it would attract all the publicity that we need, right? And Gordon Fraser is predicting a 10 out of 10. Or he's suggesting a 10 out of 10. Thanks, buddy. All right. Let's see how we're doing. Quiz at the end, 14th of November. My goodness, we're halfway through November already. Where's the time gone? I know where it's gone. 2 more vPubs in November, and then we'll be into the December and the Christmas vPubs and things like that. And then we'll be tying up the year. My goodness, it's all going by a wee bit quick. But for now, hopefully you've got something in the glass and you can strap in for a wee bit of quiz at the end. Fun. Good luck, everyone. Question 1. Which of these distilleries has been out of production for more than half of their lives? Which of these distilleries has been out of production for more than half of their lives? The grammatical error in my question there, it might help you a wee bit. The answers are A, Imperial, B, Jura, or C, Glengyle. The potential answers. So we're looking for a distillery that has been in production for a considerable amount of time, but unfortunately, for whatever reasons, have managed to find itself shuttered, closed down, mothballed, out of service, repurposed, whatever it may be, for more than half of its life since its founding year. Gordon Fraser is complaining already. There is a banana skin here, so the opening question can often be a freebie, which means that it doesn't matter what you answer. You're going to get a point. Unless there's a banana skin in there, you might need to watch out for that happening. Graham Brown is suggesting A and C. Falsgraph is saying, okay, should I switch? Peathead is saying might also be A or B next to C, but not all. Pedro is saying C, but maybe also B. All over the place. Nick Gascoigne is suggesting it is ABC tonight. Gordon Fraser complains, says Jimmy Legg. No one that handsome should be allowed to complain ever. Falsgraph is saying AC, 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 AC's adamant, and Daisy is in. Good to see you, Daisy. She was a team captain at the weekend. She was. Wonderful to have you. A and C, says Mike Molasses. You're all absolutely right. Jura was out of commission for almost 60 years in the 20th century, but it was brought back to life. But it was founded in 1810, so it's still the majority of its life in production, whereas Imperial and Glengyle, both since its founding year, both distilleries. We've lost Imperial now, but famously it was a distillery that was only in operation for a partial part of its life. And Glengyle was out of commission for, I think, 75, 78 years. In fact, 80 years, almost 80 years for Glengyle. Move on to question 2. Arnaho has a new core range named Infinite Loch. That's their new core range release. But what does the name refer to? What does Infinite Loch refer to? A, it refers to the endless supply of modern whisky. B, it refers to the sea loch of Isla's Loch and Dal. Or it refers to the unknown depths of Arnaho's water source. Don't know why there's banana skin here. I suspect that's a mistake. A wee mistake on my part. Infinite Loch refers to the endless supply of modern whisky, the sea loch of Isla's Loch and Dal, the unknown depths of Arnaho's water source. Thanks to everyone for hanging out with me on a fairly soft topic tonight and hanging out right till the end, the quiz at the end too. Steve Atkins is saying it's a great dram. Well, not being a fan of, not being a fan of red wine finishes, while you're answering this, I might just go off and see if I can find the bottle and pour one. Yeah, I've got a wee bit here. Infinite Loch. I've not had much out of this. Oh, big smoky thing. Just opening the bottle there. A big puff of smoke out of it. Here for the passion and the glass dropping, says Gordon. Left the banana in from question 1, Falsgraph is suggesting. I think you're right, buddy. So you're all absolutely spot on. I can't make you slip on any banana skins here. Supposedly they don't know how deep Loch Arnahoe actually is. I can't imagine that's true, but it helps with the mystique of it all. But it's named after the water source and the infinite loch, the super, super deep Loch Arnahoe at the northeast of Islay. Question 3. In which year did we first see an official Lagavulin 16-year-old? When did the 16 first appear? A, way back in 1968. B, 1978. Or C, 1988. When did we first see? Well, it wouldn't have been Diageo back then. It would have been UDV, United Distillers and Vintners. Part of DCL, I suppose. What year would that have been? 68, 78, or 88? Andy Piers is saying he doesn't have a clue, but C has served him well so far. Wow. I wonder how you would score if you just went through the whole thing saying C. Chris Pollack saying C. Good to see you, Chris. Brian M. Larry Bounds. Larry, that looks like a new name. It's nice to welcome you in. Also going for C. Kevin M. is suggesting C along with Daisy of Leland and Gordon Fraser and Falsgraph and Pete Head and Philip Wagner, Big Ed, Mob Brother Ray, Graham Brown, Kel Taylor, Steve Atkins, Gerbro. If it's a popular one again. Let's find out, says Gordon Fraser, Aquavitae. You're absolutely right. C for 1988. There was an official Lagavulin 12-year-old out before 1988, a white and red label. But the classic Lagavulin that we know today has been around since 1988. So that's quite a wee while. What's that? We're getting on for, what, 44 years now? No longer, 46 years. There's a wee picture here of the original lineup of the classic malts. The only thing that's changed, really, the Talisker has changed significantly. Dalwhinnie's changed a bit. Cragganmore still quite similar. Oban almost identical. Lagavulin close to identical. Glenkinchie has had a bit of an upgrade, a glow up, but also it's 12 years old instead of the original 10 now. Picture question now. No, it's not. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. We're at the kind of Dramface rip-off here with I Am a Distillery. I am a distillery located in the Highlands. I often attract the highest distillery visitor centre footfall and have made peated and unpeated spirit. A significant anniversary is imminent and everyone would love to see the return of my 14-year-old. Who am I? I am A. Glengoyne, B. Lochranza, C. Loch Lomond. Highest footfall in the Highlands. Peated and unpeated in past tense. Significant anniversary is imminent and everyone would like to see the return of my 14-year-old. It's very easy, isn't it? It's very easy for you all. Such knowledgeable whisky folk. This is a pretty straightforward one. Located in the Highlands. And despite being on an island in the Highlands, it has very often the highest footfall of any Scottish distillery. I'm talking about Arran, Isle of Arran, specifically in the north of Arran, the Lochranza distillery. So if you said B, well done, everyone. Moving into the picture question. Here we have a scene, quite an interesting scene, because we've got glass curtains wrapped around the fermentation room here. So what we're looking at here, these big wooden vessels or washbacks where the fermentation happens. But normally you're walking so that the washbacks are sitting up about chest height. But this cutaway here with these glass curtains, you see just how tall those washbacks are. That's 2 stories there. These are massive, massive, massive vessels, where the yeast is added and the Transformation to alcohol begins before distillation. But of course, I'm going to just ask you what distillery we're looking at here. A. Bowmore, B. Glendullan, or C. Arran? After the vPub tonight, I'm going to take a few days away from whiskey, I think. I think I'm going to relax. I think I'm going to take some time off. Do what I need to do for Dramface and just recoup and recover. Look at this. We are 5 out of 5 if you're answering C's tonight. Now, this is not intentional, so please don't rely on this as a pattern going forward. But if you went through the entire night tonight answering C, you would have got this one too. We are looking at the brand new upgrade at the Isle of Arran. I think it's quite impactful. I think it looks very cool, although I've not seen it in the flesh yet. This is Isle of Arran Distillery, and I credit Arran for this picture. It was from their social feeds. Question 6. It's going to get very tricky now. So a lot of you are celebrating your 5 out of 5s right now. Try and keep it steady. Question 6. Which of these is a current Compass Box core range product? A. Nectarosity. B. Story of the Spaniard. C. Spice Tree. Jimmy Legg thinks that over the history of the quiz, 50% of the answers have been C. Oh, that'd be interesting. I don't really think about it, so it might be that it's just the way my wee head works. So if you were to click on the Compass Box website at this moment in time, and they displayed their core range, only one of these 3 options would appear. It would be either Nectarosity, Story of the Spaniard, or Spice Tree. Gordon Fraser is saying he's made a horrible mistake. Is it so horrible you can't undo it? Huh. Greg's Whisky Guide is saying, I don't see why there's a banana skin. Jimmy's saying, is the banana skin an error? Well, that depends, Jimmy. What did you answer? Because you've gone for A as well. I wonder how many people went over to look at the Compass Box website. Maybe that you all are just very, very clever, knowledgeable whiskey folk, and you know that Compass Box have discontinued the Spice Tree and discontinued Story of the Spaniard, and Nectarosity is one of their new core range products. One that I've not connected with or tried yet. But the banana skin was there because I was pretty sure that some of you would be going for Story of the Spaniard or Spice Tree. But you're all up to date. You're super knowledgeable whiskey folk. So a lot of you are sitting on 6 out of 6 as we roll into 7. And I ask you, what would be a unique feature should you visit Speyburn Distillery in Speyside? If you were to take a tour as part of your visit, what would be a unique feature? A, the ability to watch salmon leap as part of a seasonal tour. B, the ability to see the only remaining drum maltings. Or C, the ability to take a whiskey tour followed immediately by a gin tour. So we've already had our first non-C question. Is this a C? You can go to Speyburn and watch a salmon leap, depending on a season. You can go to Speyburn and see drum maltings. Or C, you can go to Speyburn and have the ability to take a whiskey tour and a gin tour. Greg's Whisky Guide is saying, great question, but I have no idea. Follow the crowd, big guy. Graham Fraser is in and participating on a 6 out of 6. B, being a sheep, says Ben Demon Hunter. So good to see you in, Ben. I hope you're keeping well. Jimmy Jazz is here too. Of course you are, Jimmy. I hope you're well. I hope you enjoyed the weekend, fella. It was great to have you there. Alberto is also saying B, Road to Dram. Hoyt Hemphill is here saying it. I wish it was A to see salmon leap. Bruce Bernard is saying B. I can tell you that you're absolutely right. B. There are, from the 60s, the last time they were used is the 1960s, but there are still drum maltings installed at Speyburn that you can have a wee look. I wonder if they ever plan to bring them back. I doubt it, but it is part of historic Scotland. It is preserved, and all of the information for this one was, as usual, from handy books such as the Malt Whisky Yearbook, this question, Charlie MacLean's Whiskypedia. Occasionally I'll lean on other books such as Billy Abbott's a wee orange guide, which I tend to have handy. Of course, I'm plugging him because I've just noticed that he's in. Good to see you, Billy. Good to see you, fella. I hope you're doing well. Question 8. What statement is true about the founding of a new Scotch malt distilleries in the last decade? So I'm going to make 3 statements here about the last decade of new Scotch malt distilleries, and you've to determine which is true. There's going to be some 10 out of 10s tonight, I predict. A. There's been a new distillery founded every year. B. There's been a new distillery founded every year apart from 2020. Or C. There's been at least 3 new distilleries founded every year. Which of those statements, when referring to the last decade of Scotch malt whisky distillery production and founding years, is true? A new distillery every year. B, a new distillery every year except 2020. Or C, 3 new distilleries founded every year. It's going to get tough towards the end. Only the sharp of mind, the quick of wit, the depth of knowledge can get you through. Steve Atkiss thinks it's B. Greg's Whisky Guide is going B with the crowd. Lachlan Mackenzie is sharp as a tack. A is a subset of C. Smart. You're very, very clever folk. I make so many notes, don't I? Let's go back to the notes where I built this question up. Okay, I can tell you that Lachlan Mackenzie is absolutely spot on. And if you were to say C, there has been at least 3 new distilleries founded every year, then that automatically means that A is also correct. But that's not the way it is. The answer is there has been a new distillery founded every year. In 2020, actually, the year of COVID kicking off, you would think that there was maybe that was affected, and it probably was, but it meant that it still meant there was 4 distilleries in 2020 founded, but in 2021 there was only 1 distillery founded, which makes sense when you think about it. The correct statement there was A. As we go on to the penultimate question, keep your wits about you for those of you who have managed to scrape through with an 8. Not many now. I think that took away, it's quite a few people. Ben Demon Hunter is still in the race with an 8. Good man. Don't know how many others. Lachlan has managed to hold it together. Smart moves there, Lachlan. Mikey Hay, Dave the Brave, Alan Smith, Road to Dram, all holding it together with an 8 out of 8. Fantastic. Ex-Lefroy and Lochlee distiller John Campbell has joined Sespe Creek Distillery in California. Which whiskey will he be responsible for as part of the new move? Is it A, Penelope Bourbon, B, Baller American Single Malt, or C, Warbringer Bourbon? John Campbell, ex-Lefroy, was at Lochlee for a while. He's now over on the west coast of the US. He's in California. But as part of his move to California in Sepsi Creek Distillery, Sepsi, I think that's right, in California, which whiskey will he be responsible for? It's either Penelope Bourbon, Baller American Single Malt, or Warbringer Bourbon. Graham Fraser is worried about his phone signal holding out, and he's on 8 out of 8. Let's try and make sure that that happens for you, buddy, if we can. Lachlan is saying C rings a bell. Hoyt And Larry Bounds is saying C along with Daisy, whereas Malt Brother Ray thinks it's B. Gino is in saying, hello folks, late to the quiz. Don't worry, you can always pick it on up on the replay, buddy. It's good to have you in, Gino. Good to see you. Okay, I can tell you all that it is actually a bourbon. So that means it's between Penelope and Warbringer. I can tell you that Lachlan is correct. It's Warbringer bourbon John Campbell is responsible for as part of his move. That means that with the asshat to go at the end, the last question, Falscraft is saying lost it, sorry. We'll do it on replay. Mikey Hayes on a 9. Dave the Brave is also on a 9. Superb, guys. Andrew Pears on an 8, along with Tony Nelson and Hellswood, still strong scoring. Let's to see Lachlan, I think we also know, is on an 8. Peterhead is on an 8 out of 8 as well. But does that mean 9 out of 9? Sugar Kitty's on 9 for 9. Ben Demon Hunter is on 9 for 9. Okay, let's see if we can get you over the end. I'm pretty sure Lachlan is on 9 as well. Yes, Lachlan McKenzie's on 9 out of 9 as well. Okay, good luck, everyone. Maybe there'll be 1 or 2 10 out of 10s tonight. Here's the asshat at the end. How many distilleries lie west of Oban on the Scottish mainland? Those of you who know the location of Oban, they'll know it's one of our West Highland distilleries. It's right out there on the edge. But on the mainland, the Scottish mainland, how many distilleries lie west of Oban? Is it the same as the exact same number of A, Scotch malt distilleries owned by Inverhouse, B, the exact same as operational distilleries located on the island of Arran, or C, the exact same as operational distilleries located in Fife? Ash Hattery going on, so you need to know the answer to 2 things in order to answer this question. I'm looking for how many distilleries lie west of Oban on the west coast. And does that number match either A, Scotch malt distilleries owned by Inverhouse, B, operational distilleries located on the island of Arran, or C, operational distilleries located in Fife? Rick Johnston is saying, I'm glad I'm not relying on this question to feel good about myself. Oh dear. Come on. All the answers pouring in. Gordon Fraser saying Oban is very far west. It really is. So what you answering, Gordon? What you answering? Here we go, he's saying. Graham Fraser's got his answer in. I'm looking for Gordus. Ardna and McNean, he's saying, he's scratching his head. Scottish mainland. Inverhouse is 3, says Jimmy Legg. Well, I'll tell you what that is as well. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, says Mike Molasses, and you're spot on. Raphael Nardi is saying A, along with C.A. Newman. C.A. Newman, that might be the first time I've welcomed you in. Thank you for being a barfly. Bruce is also saying A. Graham Brown is going for B, along with Sugar Kitty and Road to Dran. Mike Molasses. Ted Brooks. B. Gordon Fraser also saying B. Okay. Gordon Fraser's going for B because he's worked out that Ardnamurchan and McNean are west of Oban, and he's worked out that on the island of Arran we've got Lag and Lochranza. I can tell you that there are 5 Scotch malt distilleries owned by Inverhouse, which are Balmainach, Speyburn, Pulteney, Balblair, and one more that I'm going to forget. Balblair, Balmainach, Speyburn, Pulteney. I need one more. Knockdhu. Of course it is. Knockdhu. Anok. B, operational distilleries located on Arran is Lag and Lochranza, and C, operational distilleries located in Fife. We've got half a dozen Fife distilleries now, but the answer is A, 5. Nean, Ardnamurchan, Glen Scotia, Glengyle, and Springbank are all located west of Oban. Gordon Fraser is screaming bollocks. Ted Brooks is screaming boo. Alan Smith is saying, no, the ass hat is kicked in. It's sucked the wind out of everyone, and I'm losing pals, and I'm losing subscribers, and I'm losing patrons, and I'm losing trust and everything. But it has to be tough. It has to be difficult. It has to be tricky. Graham Fraser managed it. Phew, a final guess, he's saying. So Graham Fraser got there with a 10. Jerry Miller got there with a 10. So some of you have managed to get it over the line. Fantastic. Congratulations, Jerry. Wonder if that's one of your first, or maybe your first. Graham Fraser, certainly no stranger to a 10 out of 10, but it's always celebrated when he manages it. But I'm obviously looking at the Lachlan's out there, looking for the other folk that were bringing it home strong. We still have a couple of 10s, though, says Sugar Kitty. Fantastic. I'll wait for a minute for people to settle down after they've charged around the living room, throwing their whiskey around, taps off, their T-shirt above their head. Listen, I'm sorry if the ass hat or any other questions took it away from you at the end. I'm sorry. The quiz should continue to be tricky. Bruce Bernard has been very gracious, saying well done to the 10s, and Jimmy Jazz is saying well done to Jerry Miller on a 10 out of 10 and saying fantastic. I wonder if we've lost Lachlan. So close if we got him there. 9 out of 10, Lachlan. Oh, so sorry, buddy. So sorry, buddy. I hope you don't hate me. I hope it'll bring you back to try again in the future. Anyway, in the meantime, I've still managed to talk for over 2 hours, despite the fact I started this week with no concept of any topic, nothing prepared, no guest lined up, no research done, nothing. Wondering if I was going to have the energy to bring off a vPub. But of course, it's not just for you, it's for me too. I love it. I love being here. I need it at times. This last weekend proved to me more than anything that our community is really, really something special. People getting together from every corner of the planet, every walk of life, not caring about our politics or our religion or our views or the things that divide us. No, we just cared about being together in the same space. The smiles, the belly laugh, the handshakes, the hugs, the fun, the togetherness that I witnessed fortified my belief in everything that I do. So despite how tired I've been in recent weeks, I end up with this fantastic, almost euphoric feeling of this is good and it needs to endure. And with your help, that can happen. I'll raise this glass too, but there's a couple of drams come in. Tobias has bought me a dram. Tobias Locust saying, hi, Roy. Isn't Port Ellen malting using a drum malting? So Speyburn is not the last drum malting in existence. Port Ellen distillery has a maltings right next to it, which is industrial drum maltings, but they're not installed in the distillery. It's just Port Ellen maltings is separate. A little bit like Diageo's Glendullan as well, Glenord, sorry, as well. Brian M is saying, thanks so much for doing another non-themed vPub. I love these. Cheers and have a great weekend. Tobias, thank you very much for your dram, my friend. And Brian M, thank you too for your dram. Cheers. Mickey is saying, I love these chilled vPubs and I dearly love getting 9 out of 10 on the quizzes. Thanks. I dearly love having you here, Mikey. Bruce Bernard is saying, job well done, Roy. Great solo effort. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you so much. It's good that you can hang out and still enjoy these more looser themed things. Let this never end, says Gene Kelly. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for being here as part of the weekend crowd as well, travelling all the way over the Atlantic to do so. Petehead is saying, with that, I call it a day and hit the sack. Thanks for organising as always, Aquaviti, despite the energy last weekend might have taken. And to all of you, see you next time. Slanchavakas, Paul Akasin, thanks for another vPub. Have your well-deserved sleep. I'm looking forward to it, Chris. Rick Johnson saying, you're a rock star, Roy. Thank you. For it and all, get some good sleep. I very much plan to, big guy. Thank you. And Jimmy, spot me a dram to say, nothing divides us. It just gives us something to talk about. What a great sentiment. Jackton will soon have maltings, Roy, says Graham Fraser. And Herban is saying, and everybody else, have a great sleep and see you on Sunday. Fastcraft is saying, great evening. I'm glad I could do the whole thing this time. Good one. And thanks again, Roy, from Graham Fraser. I'm going to raise this glass to you all as a dram comes in from Ted Brooks saying, cheers all. Thank you, Ted Brooks. Thank you for the dram. Thank you also, Jimmy Legg, Brian, Tobias. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Of course I do. But with this last wee drop, I'm going to remind you all that you're very dearly loved. And until then, Slàinte mhath.